Hello. It's Vlad. We're back for another recap. This one, it's the first game in a little while, so I haven't uploaded the rest of the videos for B2A yet because they're all recorded, but my god, editing those videos takes a while. That is a mammoth fucking series. I promise I will finish editing those videos and upload it to the channel. The finale for that game is phenomenal. So I assure you I will get back to them. It's just obviously been a while. Real life's been busy, but I'll get them up. Uh, I've played a couple of games since that game, and one of them was B2.2 Quince. I think I will do a video on that game at some point, but first of all, I wanted to make a video on a game that ended very recently, which is this one here. B2.3 Asta. It's my second Asta game after B2 Asta, and we're back playing Asta again. And in this game, I was in the middle of playing Aymara in my Quince game, and I thought, yeah, I'll pick up another game. We'll play two small regionals at once. So as you can see here, I'm zoomed in on the nation Qing here. Uh, this nation here, 4 regional, nice little area. We've got a few neighbors to deal with, and I thought, if I'm going to play two games at the same time for the first time, I'll play a nation that doesn't have too many neighbors and that I don't have to press with everyone on the board. How wrong I was about that, but that will come later. Yeah, so I decided to pick Qing. I think Qing's in a pretty good place at the moment, and I've never really played in this area of the board. One of the things I've been trying to do is play games in different regions of the board. So my first game was Safavids over here, so I got to grips with this area of the map. My next game was the Netherlands, which kind of takes you all over the map. You're in Indonesia, India, Europe, South America, Caribbean, North America. So I figured one of the areas I don't really know is this area here in Asia, and I decided to pick Qing over Ming because I mean Netherlands kind of has this area here, so interactions here. I figured I want to interact with Inuits, and Russia I've interacted with the Safavids before, but a lot of these nations it's all pretty new to me. So Qing is a nice little area to have to learn this area of the map. And one of the really interesting things about Qing is that they don't really have any colonial neighbors. Uh, they're close-ish to Portugal, Netherlands, Spain, and if they have stuff to do in the North Pacific Ocean, there's obviously a lot of Spanish presence around. But really, Qing starts the game with just 4 major neighbors, which is really nice for kind of establishing opening press. Um, I don't like coming into games with a really set idea about, oh, I'm going to ally with this nation and I'm going to kill this nation. Probably the exception on this map is that as Qing, surely you need Russia to die. I mean, it doesn't feel like if there's a strong Russia, I mean, maybe you can make it so that there's a strong Russia over here and you can have them, give up Yakutsk and you can control kind of from this side and make sure they don't come in any further. But it doesn't seem like Qing and Russia can really coexist on this map. So I had a little bit of an inkling that maybe I wanted something to be done about Russia. Russia's in a really weird spot at the moment because so many people do want to get rid of them, because if they don't, they're just lurking there and they're consolidated, they're all in one chunk, and if they get going, they can churn out a lot of units. But other than that, I was pretty much happy to come into the game and try and read what people are doing and see who I wanted to work with. There are a couple of people in this game that I knew, and in previous games, there's been a few more people that I've known, but really at the very start of this game, when I saw the first lineup, there were only 2 players I'd ever played with before. One of them was Turtle Druid, who was playing Tokugawa, and Tokugawa is right next to Qing. And so I thought, oh, that's great. I've known Turtle Druid from a couple of previous games. We know how to work together. I think we can work together. So I'm very hopeful that Turtle Druid being next to me is going to be good. One of the other players is Squid, who is playing the Safavid Nation here. And I know that Squid is a strong player. I've dealt with Squid during World of Chaos, who was I think, one of the Caribbean nations in the Pirates. Had a little bit to do with Squid there. Also had a little bit to do with Squid in 2.2Q, but I guess you'll have to wait for that video to see how that relationship goes. But I know these two players. And then I think it must have been a pre-game sub or something because I didn't notice him on the starting list. But the Inuits player is German fan, who I also know from, I think it was 2.2A, Asta, who was playing Russia. And I was the Netherlands, and I got Sweden to stab Russia in that game. But that was after German fans subbed out. So I only had good things to say about German fan from that game. And again, when you come in, and one of the things we saw with this lineup of players was that there were a lot of new players. It was a very kind of rookie lineup. A lot of people playing their first game. I know Russia was one of these people. I know Mughals was one of these people. There were more around, but they're kind of the two relevant in my area. There's a lot of new players, and if I've got two people next to me that I have had prior experiences with, and a neighbor of a neighbor that I think I can coordinate decently with, like Squid, then I've got something to work with here. So these are kind of the pre-existing relationships I was thinking about coming into the game, which made me look towards plans where I could work with Tokugawa. So I suppose time to talk about opening press. And one of the things that happens very early on in press is that I ask Russia where they're going. And they say, oh, I'm probably just going to go to Buryatia. Excuse me? Like, what are you talking about? That's marching towards me. You know it's marching towards me. Why would I ever be happy with that? And they hadn't said yet whether they were going to Yakutsk or what. And I think they were saying, well, if I'm going to Yakutsk, I'll go through Buryatia. I don't want anything to do with that. So I've got a pretty clear idea of what my opening moves are going to be. I studied all of the games in the previous wave, and every single Qing player did the same moveset, which is Hohot to Orgu, Chichaha to Nivsk, Haishenwai to Strait of Tartary, and Xingjing to Pyongyang. It's a very simple double. It's very difficult for anyone to really interfere with it unless you get attacked off rip, like by Ming coming to Liaodong, or not even. Like, Ming would have to come into Shanxi and really threaten Hohot. But so there's a very clear I'm in that setup. I don't want Russia next to Buryatia because they can threaten Chichaha. I was thinking if they did move to Buryatia that if I have an army in Nivks and an army in Orgu, I can self-bounce over Chichaha, which would keep it safe. But I don't want them going there. So I kind of say to them, like, hey, I don't really want you going to Buryatia. And apparently Russia thought that this was me definitely going to Buryatia and attacking them because I didn't want them going to Buryatia. I mean, it's in between us. Neither of us need to go there. Just go for a dot. Get your double. I've looked at the voids after the game, and it seems as though Russia came into this game, and some benefit here is that I looked at the map and I thought Qing and Russia can't coexist. And this Russia player, QB, legend, by the way, also looked at the map and decided that Russia and Qing couldn't coexist. And not only that, but Russia was looking at who the strong players in the game were because there are a lot of new players. And one of their specs specced me in 2.2Q and told Russia instantly, okay, you need to watch out for Vlad on Qing, very strong player, and you need to watch out for Squid on Safavids, very strong player. So instantly Russia's trying to cause some shit to try and get people looking anti-Qing, looking anti-Safavids. There's a whole lot of drama that unfolds before even the first phase, and after my experiences in previous games, I didn't want pre-game drama where, I just want a simple opening double where no one hates me or anything. And I tell Russia, hey, please don't move to Buryatia. Please move through Yenisei. I'm happy for you to take Yakutsk. One thing I definitely don't want is Inuits taking Yakutsk, because if Inuits get in and take Yakutsk, they're going to have a presence in Russia, and I'm going to have to deal with them sooner or later. So I want Russia going to Yakutsk. I'm not going there myself. If Russia take Yakutsk, it means they're not pushing in on Orgu or on Karakorum. This is an area I can look at down the line. So they say, okay, yes, I'll move to Yenisei, but I'm not all that happy about this. And I was a little bit spooked out by this because it felt like a mountain out of a molehill. And uh, Ming, our good mate Ming, Muck here, starts asking me what's going on with Russia, how we're doing. And I got the impression from Russia that they really liked Ming. They wanted to work with Ming. And that spooked me because I'm thinking, well, are the two of them going to band together and attack me? I mentioned to Ming, like, hey, yeah, Russia wanted to move to Buryatia. I've talked them out of it. I wasn't super happy about it, but they're not doing it anymore. Ming then went to Safavids and said, "Oh, it looks like Russia and Qing are fighting. It looks like they're not getting on very well. So something's going on here." And of course, every neighbor of Russia at the start of a game is going to look to see if they can get, or to see if an anti-Russia coalition is shaping up. And I think Safavids wanted to get an anti-Russia coalition going, but did not want to be the nation to start it. And uh, Safavids, they came back to me and said, "Hey, Ming tells me that you don't like Russia and something's going on there." I was like, "What the hell is this? Why are these rumors spreading?" Russia and I had a quick disagreement, but it got sorted out. We're fine. And I tell them that that's not all right. And I go to Ming and I say, "Hey, why are you telling people that I hate Russia?" And not, quite notably, I did not mention who told me this. And Ming then says to me, "So it looks like I can't trust the Safavids then." So immediately all this drama is being caused with Ming and Safavids in Russia. And I've had a look at some of the Ming and Russia chats and they're saying, "Oh my god, Safavids is an absolute rat. I can't believe they ratted me out and everything." And of course Squid came to me and said, "Vlad, what the hell are you doing? Why did you tell them I said this?" And I said, "I did not tell them that. I just said that someone was saying this. And they said you were the only person they told." Squid's response to this, and I think Squid was doing some of this anyway, you'd have to ask him, but Squid was trying to place the blame on Poland and was saying Poland's making up all these rumors about Russia. One of the things that everyone on the board learned very quickly about Russia was that they were an extraordinarily paranoid player, and they kept thinking everyone was going to attack them, and they were looking for big, ambitious plans of things to do, and were very paranoid about people attacking them. So I think Safavids got under their skin, and because I had cleared up with everyone, like, no, Russia and I are fine. Anyone who asked me, I'm saying, don't worry, me and Russia are fine. I don't hate them. And so I think instead of trying to throw me under the bus, Squid threw Poland under the bus and started saying, yeah, Poland's making up all these lies. And I think there were another couple that I spotted in Squid's Void. I think they were saying something about Sweden, something about Ottomans. But anyway, people start saying that Poland is making up a lot of rumors. And I think there might have been one in Africa as well, that people were questioning Poland's intentions. And, well, I'll leave it at that for the moment because I want to talk about the other neighbors and what I'm thinking. But keep that Poland-Russia thing in mind before first moves. I don't want to be committing anyway, but certainly early on, when I was hearing what Ming was doing, spreading these rumors about me, I was thinking, okay, well, that makes my mind up. Turtle Druid's a guy I know, and I'm going to attack Ming. I'm not going to do it immediately, but I can see myself in year 2 siding with Tokugawa against Ming. And very quickly, it's classic regional triangle stuff between these three. And I had Ming proposing to me to support them into Fusan in year 1 to start the Kyushu Crusher on Tokugawa. And I had Tokugawa saying in year 2, can you please support me into Hanyang from Fusan and all of this. And I say to Ming, I don't feel comfortable starting the attack immediately, but it's the kind of thing we can look at into the future. And Ming and I start talking about who should be getting what dots and if we were to go after Tokugawa. And they say to me that they're very happy with me having control of Korea, that they want all these Japanese dots and to become a naval power, which, when you look at how far away these dots are from the cores, you're going to have to core there if you're going to be a real naval power. Qing has an easier time getting to the ocean than Ming, but I guess it's about the same. but it's pretty ambitious. But I'm very happy to consolidate this kind of area. Pyongyang can be an area where I start building, and control of the Korean Peninsula is fantastic for a Qing player with how close it is by land to the capital and all of this. Yeah, so I had some good press with Ming early about a potential attack on Tokugawa. Not that I was really considering it, because I was hearing what they were saying about Russia. Yeah, and Tokugawa had proposed the opposite to me. Year one, it was very much a setup, go for a standard double. So I think Toku I spoke to before I spoke to Inuits, and we basically agreed, okay, they can get Ainu, I can get Sahalian, no worries about that. We'll direct Inuits towards Koryaks. And German fan comes on, and we have a couple of discussions about things, but very much in the first few phases of the game, Inuits was not talking very much. They had been telling everyone that they were busy in life and that they didn't have a lot of time to do press, so to keep it nice and succinct. And I definitely did that. I just went, hey, saw you in a previous game, hope we can work together, ... Here's the only things you need to respond to me about. I will keep it brief. And if you know my styling games, I have trouble keeping it brief, so I was really restraining myself here with German fan. I just thought, we're going to cut through the bullshit. We're going to say, what dot do you want? Who's going after what? And German fan says, yeah, looking all good. I would quite like to go after Sahalian, is what Inuit says to me. And I said, oh, in that case, we definitely do need to negotiate at least a little bit, because I want Sahalian. And I mean, there's two different ways that these three dots can be distributed between the triangle. Like, Koryaks can go to Tokugawa if they go through North Pacific Ocean. Kereks would come to Sahalian, and then Qing would get Ainu. But the other answer is what actually happened, and we'll go to moves. We'll have a look. Tokugawa come out to Ainu. Inuits go to Koryaks, and I go to Sahalian here, which is a pretty simple way for how this all unfolded. Before I scroll over too much further, I'd like to point out that about an hour before moves happened, I was hearing from Poland that they thought Russia were going to attack them, that they'd heard from someone else Russia was going to attack them. And I was very worried about this Russia player, because they seemed really, really, what's the word? Unpredictable, I think, would be the right word. And it was hard to know what to do. I was aware that they clearly were worried about me, and I thought that maybe they're going to go and attack me. Poland tells me they think Russia's about to attack them. And then when I'm asking Russia what they're going to do, they say, don't worry, none of my stupidness is going to be directed at you. And I'm thinking, okay, they're for sure attacking Poland here. And this is probably the most important thing on the board in the first year here, for my game at least, is that Russia goes all in against Poland. And into Smolensk, into Voronezh, into Bakhchisarai. It's a big attack on Poland, and Poland's very upset, and Russia's making some friends, so they don't put much down towards Squid. So Squid's very happy to have gotten Russia attacking Poland. I had nothing to do with it, really. Russia's coming up through Yenisei to Yakutsk, not through Buryatia, so another success here. They come into Karakorum. Oh yes, as part of the Kyushu Crusher, Ming had promised me support into Karakorum if I got them into Fusan. I didn't really want to do that immediately, because I'd be leaving Orgu as a pocket for sure, but the Russian army can retreat into Mongolia, it can retreat into Gobi, it can be a bit nasty, so I don't really want to piss off Russia immediately, particularly if they do well year one. And so otherwise for me, the fleets come out here. There'd been oh yes, I do need to talk about this. One thing I learnt very early on in the game is that the Netherlands player and the Ming player had a grudge from a previous game. Both of them brought it up to me very quickly, and I was asking Ming what they were going to do with the fleets, because, I don't want a fleet in the Beijing Sea is the most important thing. And they were saying, well, maybe I'm going to go to Chantang and I'm just going to attack the Netherlands off rip. They didn't end up doing this. They came into East China Sea. I think they wanted a bit of control around this area. I think I'd been leading them to believe that Antu-Tokugawa was on the cards. So they came in here. I had said I'm not going to support you against them year one, so just take Hanyang, and then maybe year two I can support you into Fusan after you've already taken Hanyang. which will be fine. Otherwise, everything in this area basically goes as I expect, except that Mughals don't go for Andaman Islands or for Pegu. And I'd been hearing Ming say that they weren't going for Barmo or Ava. They were just going to leave these dots here. And Ayutthaya was saying, oh no, Mughals isn't going to go for either of these. It's fine. Mughals end up moving to Orissa with their fleet, which can't get a dot. So I don't know if they're expecting to be let into Hyderabad or what, but this fleet here is doing nothing. And Ayutthaya, well, yeah, they were meant to go to Pegu, and they didn't. They moved to Ava, and Ming was not happy about this. And yeah, so Ming's gone for this Dongkin play to kind of control Portugal a bit. Yeah, oh my god, there was so much drama around all this stuff because Portugal don't even move to Hainan. They moved to Guangxi because I think Ming had told Ayutthaya they might move to take Hainan or take Macau. And Ayutthaya leaked that to Portugal. And so Portugal moved to Guangxi. Ming don't move to Guangxi. And so, yeah, it's just drama central here, really. And Ming ends up in Dongkin. They're all here. Mughals have these two armies here. They don't move into Barmo, and I believe this is because Ming asked them, like, hey, please don't move to Barmo because I'll be worried about it, Kunming. Which is, I think, why they also didn't want Ayutthaya to move to Ava. So the distribution here is meant to be that Mughals get both Barmo and Ava. Ayutthaya get both Pegu and Andaman, and Ming will get Rinbunga and Dongkin. But they're a bit worried now because of what Ayutthaya's done. But it's all simple on Vlad's front because no one's doing anything unexpected. So I'll try not to yap too much about all the goings on. But yeah, Inuits do what I want. Russia do what I want and more with this attack on Poland. Ming do what I want. They're in Turfan, and I don't believe there's going to be anything from Mughals and Russia to kick them out. Yeah, so very nice turn for me, and we may as well go straight to fall because it's just a continuation of what we've had. So fall, very fine for me. Russia moved to Yakutsk. Inuits and we're fine. I moved to Sahalian. Toku moves to Ainu. I chuck a core in on Pyongyang. You can't core a province you don't own, and also it's already my pre-core, so very silly to do. I'm playing no sides in this Hanyang Fusang fight. Netherlands help Toku into Kyushu. I believe Netherlands and Ming had tried to have some conversation. I think Ming was asking Netherlands, can you please support me into Kyushu? And start an attack on Tokugawa. And Netherlands, with the grudge against Ming from previous game, had absolutely no interest in helping Ming in. So, yeah. Tokugawa get into Kyushu. It's all fairly standard here. Yeah. Ayutthaya doesn't, in fact, go to stab Ming. They go to Pegu. They let Mughals into Ava, who had no way to force it. And I was a bit unhappy about this because I wanted drama to start happening in this triangle. I want Ming to be worried about their neighbors, and I was pretty happy to see this Guangxi thing and the Ava thing from Ayutthaya. Ayutthaya had the option here to go for a very funny move, and it actually would have been cut because of Mughals' move, but they opted. They were talking to me about the possibility of supporting Dongkin back to Kunming, putting in a hostile support. They could have said, hey, Mughals, please go to Pegu, and we'll distribute it that way. But Ayutthaya decided not to do it. They take their pre-core, all of this stuff. And Toku go burn in, and NL in Ryukyu. So Ming tapping NL here is completely unnecessary, but shows just how irreparable the relationship is between these two. Like, Ming said, hey, can you please help me to Kyushu? NL said no, and then ended up supporting Toku in so that Ming couldn't even bounce them. So clearly Ming's not going to be happy with NL. Ming might be worried that Toku and NL are going to attack them. This is very good for the Pink Nation up here in Qing. Both of us chuck a support on Russia. Russia, as I've mentioned, was very paranoid that something was going to happen. And so I think both of us are just going, hey, it's okay. Like, chill out, please. Mughals get into Uzgen with Russian support, which is very interesting. So Yarkhan's left here as kind of a pocket, but also in between Ming and Russia. So yeah, Russia also support Safavids against Ottomans. So lots of progress being made. Russia does get into Kiev, and Poland is having a bad first year with this all. They do all right everywhere else, I believe, but Russia starts this attack and they get into Kiev. They're attacking Ottomans, they're attacking Poland, and yeah. Russia have a good year. They go +7, I believe, in this first year, but they're making a lot of enemies, and I'm always worried about them because they're a clearly unpredictable player. I don't quite know what they're going to do ever at any stage of the game. Yeah, that's my first year. I don't think there's much more to talk about. We may as well have a quick look at the scoreboard. Spain gets off to a very good start. I should mention at this point that the original Spain player subbed out of the game and had been replaced by Basil, who is a very strong player. And I was a little bit worried that Basil would be the only strong colonial and might completely run away with this game. And a +15 in year one didn't do much to dissuade me from that. So they have a 16 dot possible if they were to double. They nearly double. None of the colonials actually double. But one of the important things here is that one of the pseudo-colonials did. Inuits doubled. So Inuits go up to 7. They're one of my neighbors. And I'm a little bit worried that Inuits are going to do very well. It means they have to build everywhere. And that means they're going to double build in Siberia, which I don't really want because I want them to be focusing on America and not really worrying about my area. Inuits do well, Russia do well. There's a few nations here that double, most notably for my position. Safavids. Ute also does well, which could matter when it comes to Inuit. But yeah, I've got off to an alright start here. I've got my double. That's all you can really ask for year one as a 4-dot nation. So yeah, if we have a look here, Inuits has done quite well. And we'll have a look at builds here. What matters for me. And this is a map here. I get to build everywhere. I think it's very obviously just going to be, I think it's, yeah, just the one fleet for my builds. We may as well just go to it. Yeah, so one fleet, 3 armies from me. I did not like to see 2 fleets from Ming here. At the time, it just kind of scared me that they were going to move right into Beijing Sea. They were going to start attacking me with Tokugawa and everything. But also, you can say that the fact that they didn't build an extra army there means they're not going to attack me by land. So maybe fleet peaking is fine, and I need to not worry so much. A fleet in Nanking probably also is going to go down towards Netherlands. The two of them don't get on. Portugal's pumping out another fleet. And yeah, Ming had asked me whether they would rather the wave be in Lanzhou than in Chengdu. But either way, this army that's built here is going to go to GMing and is going to take the pocket dot. So I don't really mind. And I say to them, well, hey, Russia's a bit of a threat, so you should build in Lanzhou so you can threaten Russia a bit more. And maybe we can have a look at tactics around. Before I scroll up to Russia's builds in Siberia, they went +7. They had 8 places to build. And everyone wanted the wave to be right next to them. Russia was very paranoid whenever anyone suggested this because they thought immediately it meant people were going to attack them. And they'd said to Ming and I, like, hey, I'm going to put one of my waves over in Siberia because I trust you guys and it's going to be fine. I wake up the next morning and Russia says, actually, I'm going to build 2 in Siberia for self-defense. Pull the other one, Russia. If you're building 2 in Siberia, it's to attack me. I know that you like Ming a lot. I know that you don't trust me. And if you're building 2 in Siberia, you are attacking me. So you're trying to sort something out with Inuits, with Ming, with whoever. And I did find out looking in press, and I'd caught a whiff of this during the game, but Russia had been approaching Qing, Inuits, and Tokugawa. I think it was Ming, Inuits, and Tokugawa, and I believe it was Ming and Inuits first, about, hey, do we all want to coalition Qing and just go in on that? And I think I heard about this from Tokugawa. It might have been Ming that I heard about it from, but it was one of the 2 of them anyway. And one of them told me that Russia was trying all this stuff and was going to build 2. I think Ming put the coolers on Russia, and looking back at all the press, the other 3 nations that had been asked about this all just thought that Russia having committed so hard against Poland, was just trying to get all of us fighting so Russia didn't have to worry about this area. So they didn't believe Russia was actually going to go in. They just wanted, Tokugawa to attack Qing and Inuits to attack Qing and all of that. So looking at Russia's void, this was absolutely not the case. Russia absolutely wanted to kill me, and there was some map they drew up where they were going to move into Outer Mongolia and into Buryatia and down into Karakorum and start the attack in earnest. So this was a real worry. I tried very, very hard in press to make sure that we got what we see on the map here, which is Russia only building one. And I said to them, like, self-defense is bullshit. If you're coming in, it's to attack me. And they said, what? So you're saying that I shouldn't be allowed to defend myself? And I'm saying, if you build those there, I'm always going to have to lead more armies up towards you. If you're worried about Buryatia, build in Bratsk, that's fine. Even though Krasnoyarsk is obviously the better build for if they want to have any effect around this area, but they're clearly worried about Buryatia, so I said just build in Bratsk. I know you like Ming, so it's a very, very pro-Ming wave, this waving in Krasnoyarsk. They're building in Bratsk, which is only an anti-Qing kind of move compared to Krasnoyarsk, unless they're really worried about, not even really if they're worried about Inuits, because they can move to Yenisei from either of them. So it's not the ideal wave. Bratsk wave would have been lovely, but it's definitely better than two armies over here. I'm not happy having heard that Russia was trying to coalition me, and I start talking to some of the others. And Poland had been asking me, okay, are you going to attack Russia? And I was saying, well, I think I might be able to swing that. We'll see how it goes, but I'm not giving too much away too early. And yeah, Inuits builds Kerek's west coast here, which I don't love. And they were saying, well, you're in Sea of Okhotsk, so you're next to it, so I need to protect this area, otherwise you're going to march in and take everything. And I wasn't happy because I really wanted them to go to Koyaks to get them specifically away from the Sea of Okhotsk. And then they build another fleet that can only go to the Sea of Okhotsk. So they sold it as defensive, but I'm definitely wanting to make sure that they're not coming to attack me. So if anything is possible at all, I really want to control the Sea of Okhotsk. But yeah, we'll see how that all goes. Yeah, so we've had these builds, and I start realizing we get the Russia wave on the board, and I go to Ming instantly and say, okay, we need to take advantage of this. We need to start making inroads into Russia's position and attack them in earnest. And I say to them, hey, I want to take Karakorum this year. Is it all right if I go to Gobi and you go to Tumeds? And then we can start really going in. We can threaten two dots at once, all of this. And Ming say they don't really want to go for Krasnoyarsk because they feel that these dots are my area to take, and that they would be encroaching on me if they were to take them. And I'm kind of looking at this and thinking, well, why are Qing so ready to give up on an area of growth for them? Either, number one, they're lying and they're planning to attack me with Russia, but if that was the case, why would Russia wave in Krasnoyarsk? Or they're really happy for me to have this whole area. And they say, well, I'll help you into Karakorum, but only if you help me into Fusan, and we can start this attack on Japan, And of course, at this stage, I'm still riding the fence here. I don't know whether I'm working with Tokugawa or whether I'm working with Ming, because of course, early on, I was not trusting Ming at all, and I'd pretty much decided, well, I want to work with Tokugawa against Ming. But the more you look at it, the more it makes sense to work with Ming here, because Ming and Netherlands have this grudge at this point, and Ming and Netherlands are not going to peace out. They're not going to work together. And Russia is a complete, flip-flopper in decision-making. They'd said, oh, I'm going to wave over here and leave you guys be, and then they said, oh, I'm actually going to build two over here for self-defense. They're flip-flopping like crazy, even if they are going to not attack me. In a year, who knows? Maybe they lead a coalition against me. And so I decided, no, Russia has to be target number one in this position. Even pre-game, without knowing who the Russia player was going to be, I knew that Qing and Russia can't really coexist. So I start looking at what can I do to really start making inroads on Russia. And so I start talking to Ming about them helping me to Karakorum, and we make this deal. I will get Karakorum and they will get Fusan. And I It sucks to have to work against Tokugawa in this way, particularly because Turtle Druid is someone I know I could build a good relationship with if I try. But it gets me a dot, and well, I may as well weigh up the deals I got offered by everyone in this phase, because Tokugawa were asking me to support them into Hanyang, and in return they would support me to the Sea of Okhotsk. And they said, well, this fleet here is always going to come for you, so I'll support you there and you don't have to worry about that. So Ming were offering me 1 dot. Tokugawa were offering me 0 dots. Already that's a bit of a disadvantage to come from. And then I start talking to Inuits, and they're not talking much, remember? And we'll talk more about why they're not talking much a little bit later. But they're not talking very much, but we have a pre-built relationship from a previous game. So I start suggesting to them, like, hey, would you want to maybe move to the Kuril Islands and we can attack Ainu? Like, come into Okhotsk, come into Kuril, take Ainu for yourself from Okhotsk, and we'll be good. And I'll come and support you in or something. And they say, well, I don't really want to move to Kuril Islands because they wanted to core in Koyaks because they don't have a build spot right on the NPO, and Inuits didn't want to just be an NPO nation. They wanted to be the NPO nation. So they were happy with people attacking Tokugawa because Tokugawa has the most immediate access to the NPO, but Inuits didn't want to move out of Koyaks. They wanted to core it, and they say to me, like, hey, I'll come to Okhotsk, but you need to support me into Ainu. And they were trying to say, like, hey, Haishin Waita Tartary, and then you can support me. And if I'm attacking Tokugawa, I obviously want to move to the Oriental Sea if I'm going to do anything. So I have to move Sahalian down to do this. But I say, okay, well, I'll support you into Ainu if you come over and support me into Yakutsk. Because they've built an army here, which, again, it can't really go off and do its own thing. I don't love it, but they're basically saying, I'm going to build up a nest egg here and dissuade anyone from attacking me. And it's quite smart to put yourself in a position where attacking you is really difficult. Like, an army build here means that me attacking Inuits is always going to be difficult. So it doesn't really make sense for me at any stage here to look at attacking Inuits. So in that regard, my goal number 1 is kill Russia. And we make a deal. They're going to come to Saka, and they're going to support me into Yakutsk. We're going to both still chill here so that neither of us are a threat. They're going to come into Okhotsk, and I'm going to support them to Ainu. So the deal Inuits offered me got me 1 dot. The deal Ming offered me got me 1 dot. The deal Tokugawa offered me got me 0 dots. And Russia was not offering me any deal. Because the only person they can realistically help me against is Ming. They're not offering that. They could realistically help me against Inuits. It's not viable. So very clearly I want to kill Russia here. And I make these deals, and let's go to moves. Yeah, everyone does what I want. So Ming had said, well, they're not going to move to 2 meds, but they'll support me in because they want to have more presence around this area. They were a bit scared about what IU had done the previous year. Once again, we see no fleet go to Beijili Sea. Ming clearly think that Toku and Netherlands are going to do something. So Netherlands actually changes here, and the important reason for why Netherlands started changing was that the Netherlands player subbed out and was replaced by a player that viewers of this channel will know well, and that is Soda. Soda was a nemesis in World of Chaos. Soda was a nemesis in 1.6 Orchid. And Soda is once again in here as the Netherlands. We get on very well, but also it's a little bit of a we know what we could do to each other kind of relationship. Netherlands makes up with Ming, and I don't love that because I want them to be fighting forever. Netherlands moves towards Tokugawa badly because Tokugawa moved to defend it. Yeah, and Tokugawa thinks I'm supporting them to Hanyang, moves to Hanyang. Ming thinks I'm supporting them to Fusan, and I do. I support Ming into Fusan, and this army gets blown up. And I should go back to the clean map and show just how easy this decision was, as much as it sucked to be pissing off Turtle Druid. There's no fleets next to Oki Sea except for Aomori. And there's an army in Fusan, not a fleet. Tokugawa has the choice to take Fusan with a fleet and Kyushu with an army in year 1, and they build in Kyoto to come over to Tsushima and back up the area. So both of these units are armies that cannot move into the waters around my area. And now we'll go back to the moves, and we see Aomori moves away as well. So there's absolutely no fleet in the area to stop me getting into Oki Sea. What's more, because this army comes over to Tsushima, this army gets blown up. So Toku's already down a unit in defending this area. So it's really, if this was a fleet in Fusan, I would hate the idea of letting it retreat to the Oki Sea and maybe start looking at Pyongyang or something like this. Because it's an army, there's no real repercussions for my position. Yeah, Turtle Druid came to me after this and seemed to think that this was an insane gambit by me. I think that the bit that was the riskiest for me is the fact that Sahalian is open here. But they came to Ming and said, how did you convince Qing to do this insane gambit? And I don't think it's that insane. Like, yes, I'm supporting Ming forwards into Tokugawa, but nothing can retreat towards me. Yes, the big worry here is Okhotsk, and Tokugawa did support me to Sea of Okhotsk. They were ready to make an enemy of Inuits and Ming for me, so I was truly in the bell of the ball situation in both of these triangles, where everyone wanted to work with me except for Russia, basically, and I picked 2 people instead of pissing off 2 people, and I pissed off 1 person, so I do feel like this was the correct decision, even though I'm not getting any dots out of it this turn. I think it was the right call to defend against Tokugawa. Yeah, so Inuits move over, they don't move against me. I organized this bounce in Aldan with Russia because I said, hey, I'm worried about Inuits could move to Aldan and Saka, which would fuck you up, or they could move to Aldan and Venki and fuck me up. Either way, neither of us want Inuits in Aldan, so we should just bounce here. This was to make sure Russia didn't bounce me out of Buyartia. And also because I was a little worried Inuits could attack me, you know? There's everything to prepare for. So organizing this was very nice. Russia don't bounce me at all. I get into Gobi. Ming starts this core, which is probably going to make Russia think that they're not going to be supporting me. It's very nice. I didn't tell Ming specifically I was going to Gobi, because I'd asked whether they wanted to go to 2 meds, and they said, well, if I'm helping you, I want to be the one to move to Gobi, and I don't want that at all. Gobi's next to 2 of my dots. So basically I said, okay, well, just support me into Karakoram then. And I moved to Gobi, and I was prepared for Ming to be really unhappy with me. But my logic was, well, I'm supporting them into Fusan. It's pretty clear that I'm going in on Russia here. Gobi is not an attack on you. Support Gobi to Karakoram. It gets me away from your border, and we can continue the attack in earnest. And Ming, to their credit, they came back and said, yep, that's all good. But I'm supporting Gobi to Karakoram. I'm not supporting Orgu to Karakoram. And I say, yeah, of course, I can't leave Orgu alone, particularly if Russia can retreat to Outer Mongolia. So at this point, all is looking really nice from these moves. I get into Oriental Sea. Aomori is free. So Tokugawa is going to be forced to cover Aomori, which gives me free passage into the Oki Sea. Completely looking just beautiful here. I'm in position to fulfill every one of these deals. Is there much else I need to look at? Oh yeah, Safavids and Mughals also start moving on Russia, which is lovely to see. And basically people start moving on Russia across the board. Russia tries to keep moving in on Poland, but Poland's kind of defending here. They're not getting attacked by anyone else. And yeah, Sweden move into Abo here. They're kind of moving towards Russia. Yeah, Sweden and Russia have a bounce, and fleets are coming out here, so things are not looking good for Russia. And yeah, Safavids stab Russia here after convincing... Oh no, Russia tried to support Ottomans into Safavid here, so yeah, very interesting dynamics here. But basically no one's friends with Russia anymore. And the only person that hasn't stabbed Russia is Ming, which was the person they liked the most again. So again, could be scary if Russia and Ming want to try something on me, but I'm in Gobi. I kind of have my foot on Ming's neck saying, hey, please help me. And I can dot Anyang if I want to, you know, all this stuff. So people are kind of in a position where they're forced to trust me. The exception to that rule is Inuits, and we'll go to the clean map. This issue here around Sahalian is a worry, because what I was terrified by was that Inuits would not support me into Yakutsk. They would move into Aldan, or they'd start supporting Russia down towards me. They'd get into Yakutsk themselves or something. I don't know. And they would dot Sahalian. They would not go into Ainu, and Inuits and Tokugawa would have a really nice casus belli against me, and I'd have suddenly 3 nations here all warring me. So I'd said to Inuits, like, I'm going to 50-50 my order here between covering Sahalian and supporting you to Ainu. And of course Inuits say, well, no, if I'm supporting you to Yakutsk, you need to move to Ainu. But I also said, well, you were the one that didn't want to do this from Kuril Islands, so I think it's fair enough for me to still 50-50 this. And I had a conversation with Turtle Druid. Turtle Druid was at first very angry with me and thought that I was making a stupid decision. The other two were playing me, that Inuits would start fucking me up and everything. And they said, well, you're not really the one to benefit from all this, because Inuits told them the plan, which I think was a bit of a stupid decision. You don't tell Tokugawa exactly what the deal is. And Inuits said, oh, the deal was Yakutsk for Ainu. And Tokugawa then come to me and start saying, oh, well, please don't support them into Ainu. They're probably going to go for Sahalian, so you need to cover Sahalian and not support them against me, right? And I'm kind of insinuating to Tokugawa that maybe I'm going to cover Sahalian, I'm not going to attack them, and I'm saying, yeah, you're right, I did this to get Russian dots, and I don't benefit from a protracted war against you, all of this stuff, because I don't want Tokugawa's anger to be directed mostly at me. I want to say, like, hey, the others are the ones getting the dots off you. I'm just doing this deal to attack Russia, and then we can figure stuff out later. I strongly consider covering Sahalian, earning a bit of goodwill with Tokugawa, and trying to say to Inuits, like, hey, I never said I was going to 100% do this. But at the same time, I really don't want a fleet in Sea of Okhotsk, and if I can put Inuits in Ainu, that gets the fleet away from Sahalian. And also, it earns me a really strong ally in a game where people are unpredictable and lots of things are happening. We'll go to Moose. And I do decide to put Inuits into Ainu, and Inuits do get into Ainu. They do not dot Sahalian, which is really nice. Inuits do put me into Yakutsk and put them out, and Ming do support me into Karakoram instead of finishing their core, which would have been very easy for them to do. So I get Karakoram, I get Yakutsk, I get 2 Russian dots. What's more, Russia loses Turkestan. Russia loses Kabardia to Ottomans because of some very weird tactics here from Russia. They lose Bakhchisaray to Ottomans. Basically, Russia have a really bad year, and I believe they go down -5. So really shocking year for Russia. So Ming have already gotten into Busan, so they get into Tsushima and knock back another army again. And I get my fleet into OTC. Of course, Aomori is covered, so Toku can't build there if they're able to somehow disband enough units to get a build. Netherlands were meant to put Ming into Kyushu here, and decided not to. And I believe, I read this in the Void, I believe Netherlands were saying, well, I think you and Qing are really strong, Ming, so if I put you into Kyushu, you're just going to come for me next. But it didn't stop Netherlands going for Bonin Islands. So, I mean, Soda Wien is really trying to play kind of both halves of this. I know all too well, you can look back at my B2A early game and see how I tried to play both Ming and Toku off against each other, and I believe this is exactly what Wien is doing here. So Ming don't get into Kyushu, which I kind of like because it slows them down a little bit. Tokugawa also bounced them out of Yellow Sea. This does suck a little bit because they can't build a fleet in Nanking, and Ming, knowing them, they're going to want to build another fleet in Peking. So that's nervous for me again, because always I'm still worried about plans here. But this fleet going to Tsushima is really nice for me because it puts them really into a position where attacking Tokugawa is the best for them. So another important move to note here is Portugal moving to Fokien Strait. And they'd said, like, oh, I'm just going to sit still and not attack anyone and we'll all be good. But they start moving towards Formosa, and they say, yeah, I'm going to come in for Formosa, I'm going to attack the Netherlands. And there's stuff happening all across the board that I am not going to cover in this video, because there's so much going on that I do not have full context for. But yeah, Netherlands is really pissed off about this. And knowing them, they're a colonial, and yes, they've only got two dots here, but they can build a third in Formosa and say, fuck you, Portugal. I think that's what happened. Ming Kor Rinpungupa, which is interesting, that Mughals just allow Ming to core on their border. And they've done this 2 phases in a row now, I believe. So Ming just get this core off, and they've finished a core in Rinpungpa, which, if you're the Mughals, why are you ever happy with this happening? And maybe they thought, oh, well, I'm going to get attacked in Ava if I tap Rinpungpa from Bamo, so I need to keep defending myself. But none of them are attacking each other. Ming finishes the core. Mughals isn't coring. England move into Orissa and are working with Portugal, and yeah. There's lots of stuff happening. I don't know the full context for everything, but the TLDR is that Russia collapses and Qing is gaming. So once more, we'll have a look at the scoreboard. I've gone +2 here, and I'm one of the 4-dot nations that is doing the best. So Sweden and I are the only 2 4-dot nations that are up to 10 dots at this point. Ayutthaya is a bit below. All these 9-dot nations here are 4-dot nations at 9. But importantly, Inuits, who had doubled the previous year, and it says +1 here, but I believe they went neutral because they doubled from 7 to 14. So I think this build here is from a blow up. Inuits went +0 in year 2, and suddenly they're not as threatening as they were, because I'm always worried that, Inuits is going to start building a shit ton over here and they're just going to attack me and they're going to kill me. But they start stalling, and I'm now above them in percentage despite starting with much fewer dots than them. So it's a nice start here. What you will start to notice here is that usually for the first few years, the top few nations are all colonials. And Safavids is second in percentage already, because Spain goes +0. Basil gets fucked over, I believe, by Ute and Netherlands and a couple of other nations. England is the only colonial really growing much. France go -1, so this is where France really start becoming the odd one out in terms of the colonials and just start really collapsing. Russia is in last place despite starting on 8 dots. So Russia is, absolutely fucked basically in this position, because they went -5. They blew up a few units, so that's why it says -2. Ming's looking all right. Inuits are looking all right. Tokugawa are down the bottom as well. They're not looking good. So I'm looking good in my position here. And Poland's making a bit of a comeback, so they're still kicking around the top here. Very important to notice is that England is on top. People are a little bit worried, but Safavids +5 really starts freaking people out. And people are worried, and they're saying, oh my god, if Russia collapses, Safavids is going to get everything, and they're going to grow like crazy and just win the game. And Poland and Mughals, I'm trying to say, like, hey, you need to start worrying about Safavids. Don't let Squid get away and have a crazy game. And also, people are a little bit worried about England at this point because they've gone well, but Safavids is kind of taking the heat off of England this year, because this is really quite a strong start from the Safavids here. They've gone +5, +5. So an insane start by Squid. Very well played early game by Squid here. Yeah, I think that's probably all that matters from the scoreboard. We get 2 builds. Russia decides to blow up both of these troops, and they see the writing on the wall after this, and they realize everyone's attacking them over in the east, so there's absolutely no point them keeping on these troops. And they blow up both of these, and then in builds, I believe they blow up Bratsk as well. Yeah. So looking quite good. All 3 of these armies go, and I start looking at this, and I think, well, Ming has been saying, well, these dots are my growth area, so they're not going to try and contest it. And suddenly I see all 3 of the Russian armies defending this area disappear, which is looking just gorgeous. So I look at this and I think, fuck, I could be on really quite a strong game here if all goes well. Yeah, so Toku, I convinced them to move to Kuril here, and I start saying, well, yeah, Inuits is one of the nations that's really going to try and start killing you. They can't retreat to Okhotsk because that's where the attack came from. But I'm saying, like, hey, maybe if you move to Kuril, you can put pressure on Koyaks. with your NPO fleet, and you can just kick them out, because that could work. And every stage of this attack, I was piecing Turtle Druid out every year and then not piecing him out. So I said, like, hey, can you come to Kuril Islands? Maybe you can look at Koyaks. And I am starting to consider, like, do I want to vassalize this guy? But I probably want to get a few dots off before I do. So I get my two builds. One of them is obviously going to be Fleet Haishan Wei. We'll go to the clean map. Oh no, that is the builds map. Because there is a bit of a dilemma here about the last build. And I'm going to build a Fleet in Haishan Wei. I knew I wanted to build in Chichiha here. Was the one I wanted to do, because these two armies are still here. They don't necessarily have to run away. And also I can get towards Russia dots from Chichiha. So this is where I want to build. I knew that would piss off Inuits and they'd ask me to build somewhere else. So for that reason, in fall, I... is this the right map? No, this is. I held in Xinjing because I didn't want to be able to build in Xinjing. If I build in Xinjing, the one that's the friendliest to Ming and Inuits, of course Ming will say no, build in Chichiha because that can go to Peking. But it's better Xinjing than Hohhot. So it's the kind of move that diplomatically I might have been persuaded to do. But I build in Chichiha, and I basically, Inuits were trying to say you need to build in Hohhot, and maybe you should just attack Ming. And I'm saying, I'm not attacking Ming right now. We're just starting on Tokugawa here. Ming is not who I'm attacking right now. Inuits want me to attack Ming. Ming want me to attack Inuits. I build in Chichiha, and I'm saying, well, I'm going to get my Russian dots, and I'm not going to make a hard decision about what I'm doing at this stage. But Inuits, you need to please now back away. You've helped me out here a lot. I very much appreciate you, but we want to start demilitarizing this area. You're struggling over in North America, so you need to make nice with me, have me be your best friend, move away from me, and we'll all be good. And they do agree to do this, and I believe they were looking at one point about maybe building in, Chukchis with a fleet or something, and I didn't want them building over here at all. They ended up building in Aleuts because they wanted a bit more pressure around here. And this, I think that was definitely the right call by Inuits, was to build over in North America. Of course, I'm biased, but am I realistically going to attack them here? I don't think so. There's a few tactics where, I'm not next to Sea of Okhotsk right now, so I'm not really going to have a great attack on them. I can move to Shantar Bay maybe with my fleet and start doing something, but it's not a great attack. So I think here it should be clear that I'm going to keep attacking Tokugawa, so Inuits should stay with me. But I think also one of the important things here is that it became very apparent to me that out of the three of us, Tokugawa had absolutely no relationship with Ming or with Inuits. And that I was the only one that they were reasonably talking to peace with. And I think part of this was because I'd made out to them like, hey, I'm not the one getting the dots here, so I'm not the one growing the most from your deaths, so I'm the one that you can work with ongoing. I think this went all right in terms of convincing them, and Tokugawa really did keep thinking every phase that I was going to peace with them. And at this point, I do say to them again, like, yeah, I'm going to come over here and I'll get you into Ainu, or you can help me into Ainu and I'll stab Ming. Or I think it was something like that is what I was saying. I said, I'm going to take Hanyang if you come and attack here. But Tokugawa disband in Kuril, which means they can't take Koyaks anymore. And I wanted to get Tokugawa and Inuits fighting, because I wanted Inuits to know that I was their bestie and that I'd back them up no matter what. I'd keep attacking Tokugawa. But Tokugawa disband here and they decide to keep defending everything over here. It's probably the best disband for them, because realistically, what's it going to do? So, no issues with that move. Ming do put out yet another fleet. So Ming have 5 fleets out here, and you can say, oh, this could be bad for me, but it's much better than them having a shit ton of armies. So they've got all these fleets out here. They're basically forced to keep attacking Tokugawa. And now NL have just betrayed them as well. Okay, Netherlands don't build a fleet in Formosa, which is interesting. I thought they might have this phase, but no, maybe they had no builds or not enough to spare. We were not happy with this build here from Mughals, because we thought you need to build in Kartak here and you need to put pressure on England. England have gone +6. They're right next to Kartak. Why the fuck are you not building there? And I think they didn't trust Ming, but also if you don't trust Ming, you're building Kolkata, don't you? So Sasaram just feels like a really bad build. Um, Kabul's fine because Safavids are huge. I'm very happy to see that. But I really thought that maybe Mughals could put a bit more pressure on England, even though they're in Andhra Coast and Bay of Bengal. So some of the English area is being threatened. But yeah, I don't know. It's all weird. Most important for me is that Russia disband and I get my build in Chichihar, which is really nice. Yeah, at this stage, I am going to keep going in on Tokugawa, and I want Inuits to move away. And I suggest to them, like, hey, if you move to Chukchis, it means that you're still in position to defend Evenki, and I can't tap Saka with Yakutsk, so it's better for you to defend Evenki from Chukchis if I were to attack you. So I start negotiating for them to move away, and I say that I'm going to move away as well because I'm going to take all. And I don't say what I'm going to take the Russian dots with. I say I'm going to start taking these Russian dots. And my plan coming in here is pick up my Russian dots, don't commit against anyone, and then decide what to do from there based on what people do to me, based on what Tokugawa was able to do, based on what happens here with the Netherlands, based on what happens here with Inuits and who's going to attack them. Because I believe at this point Inuits and Uday are fighting. So we got two big heavy hitters going up against each other over there. Yeah, let's go to moves. Inuits move away to Chukchis, and I start coring Yakutsk. And I mean, it was a little bit cheeky of me to do this without asking, but as a Qing player, getting a core on the north coast of Russia is really, really important. Yakutsk is a really, really nice core here. You can get a fleet over to start pushing over into these dots if you want, or you can get fleets out to start attacking the Inuits. And I didn't even really realize this at the time because I haven't played this area of the map at all. But Chukchi Sea here is adjacent to Chukchis, sure, but it's also adjacent to Nome and Yupik. So Chukchi Sea is a very, very, very important province for the Inuits. And Inuits really don't want Qing building fleets in the north because they'd be worried they'd come towards them at any stage. Inuits move away, and they do this really weird move to Okhotsk, where I believe this was to cover against me attacking them, where they'd still have 3 on Evenki, because I think they were worried I'd move to Saka, to Aldan, to Chichihar, to Shantar Bay, and that at least in Okhotsk they'd be able to either put pressure on defending Evenki or on Sahalian to make me cover Sahalian. So this is why they did this move. I didn't love it because I wanted them to move in on Tokugawa and help me, but if they moved to Mutsu, they wouldn't have got in anyway. So, yep, I get my fleet into Oriental Sea, and this is another phase where Tokugawa think I'm piecing them, and I convoy into Echigo, which is kind of committal because it's saying, hey, I'm going to be taking some Tokugawa dots, but it's really nice. I have 2 on Aomori here, and Mutsu can not actually be tapped by. Sorry, yeah, I have 3 on Aomori, so I can just take Aomori this turn. Inuits devastatingly do not get into the NPO because they bounce with Spain, which, I mean, what are the fucking odds of the 4 free spaces? They just happen to bounce. Yeah, no one stabs me. It's really good. I get up into Chichihar. I agree with Mughals to core Orgu if they core Turfan, because they really wanted to core Turfan, and they said to me, you're not allowed to core Karakoram. And I was thinking, okay, this is a bit rich, but also I'm not going to core in Karakoram. I'd rather core somewhere like Krasnoyarsk. And that's basically what I sell to them is like, hey, I'll core in Krasnoyarsk eventually, and I'll core in Orgu just to make sure I have a bit more deployment now. They don't start coring in Turfan. They tap Yarkand, and this is part of a plan with Mughals where I think Mughals had offered to support the Safavids, but Mughals wanted Russia to stab Safavids with their 3 armies, and they wanted Ming to cut the support they were giving to Safavids to make sure that this attack that Russia would do on Safavids would work. And Russia just didn't attack Safavids, which, I mean, the mind boggles, but Russia's kind of having a bad game. I don't think them making misplays matters all that much at this point because they're not going to win the game. So I can't criticize QB too much for this. But this is why Ming don't start coring in Turfan, because they want to get some anti-Safavids happening on the board because everyone's worried about the big Safavids. And it's really nice that I certainly contributed to some of this fear-mongering, and it's one of my favorite pastimes is just point at someone else and say, hey, they're going to be really big, you need to worry about them and not me, because I've had really quite a strong start for this game, but because Safavids went 5-5, you can say, oh, they're the big bad, you need to watch out for them, and not me. And in fact, if anything, I need to do well so I can keep in touch with them. So, really nice year for me. Tokugawa guessed correctly and defend Kyushu because, of course, well, they get in correctly. I think they were asking for Netherlands support again, but Netherlands bounce over Formosa because of this Portuguese move. And another really important thing here is that Ming stabbed Portugal. Ming do not stab Netherlands, which is one of the things I thought might happen, but it's not a very effective stab from their position. They stab Portugal to kick them completely out and move everything down along here. They don't attack Mughals, which is one thing I thought might happen because I'd heard that Mughals were going to start coring. And I mentioned to Ming, hey, Mughals are going to be coring. I think their dots are free. And Ming decided to stab Portugal instead. But Mughals start coring, and Ming don't like this at all. They're like, why are you coring on my border? Despite having just cored Rinpoche right next to Mughals. So it's, yeah, I'm allowed cores, but you're not allowed cores. Why are you doing this? So Ming were not happy at all with Mughals for this, but they're stabbing Portugal. They're finally making moves in a direction that is not me. And I'm very happy to see this because it gets armies away from me. It's really nice, and I've got a free year to pick up 2 dots over here, and yeah, I'll talk about one of these things maybe next phase, but I've got Aomori guaranteed. I've got 2 dots over here guaranteed, so this is already looking at +3, looking for a very nice year here for me. And of course my mind starts thinking to what am I going to do after Tokugawa, and Inuits have been a really nice ally here. They've moved into Okhotsk, so again, making a stab on them pretty difficult. They're putting themselves in a position where it's hard to stab them. There's no real reason to. And also, Inuits neighbour England, so I kind of want a strong force next to England. Don't forget that England went +6 last year and are looking pretty good. So England could start being a threat. Why would I want to start warring Inuits? So I start looking at this and I think, well, I'm going to have armies in Krasnoyarsk and Bratsk. Where the hell are they going to go next? Oh, Turfan's right there. And of course, I'm thinking if Ming get any builds, we'll go to the clear map. If Ming get any builds, they're going to build in Lanzhou because it protects Turfan either against Mughals or against me or whatever. They're going to build in Lanzhou because it just reinforces the area. They've moved everything down. So it looks quite nice for me if Ming isn't able to get any builds. And of course, they're going to be able to get something over here in Portugal, but they may not be able to get both of them. One of the things that I find baffling, and you can argue either way, but maybe it's just testament to how the press went, is that I was agreeing to help Ming into all of Tokugawa's dots in return for the Korean dots. And it was, okay, well, I'll take Korea because long term you don't want it. And yeah, I did forget to mention this in the moves. Ming really did want me to tap Kyoto to get them into Kyushu. But I said, we're going to do better if I get the army over. I can convoy it over now. It gets an army away from you. It gets it into Tokugawa. So one of the main reasons I did this convoy was so I didn't have to help Ming here, because I want Ming stalling as much as possible. And yeah, so Ming don't get their dot. I get over here, and they say to me, well, okay, well, I'm going to now go for the 2 dots, and you can support me into Kyoto, and I'll support myself into Kyushu. I'll get both of these, and you can take Hanyang. And I was really, really confused why Ming was so fine with me taking Hanyang. I would have thought they could at least ask the question like, hey, you didn't tap Kyoto to get yourself in a better position. Can you please delay taking Hanyang a year so that I get these Tokugawa dots and can make sure I get builds, because I'm getting dots here, but it's not all guaranteed. But they never did this, and they just kept saying, well, yeah, it's fine for you to take Hanyang. And of course I want to take Hanyang here. I get a dot, and also I get to build in Pyongyang, which would then be open. So I was perfectly happy to just keep taking dots. And the dot I'd get off them in Hanyang would cancel out a dot they'd gain in Portugal. They might get two, depending on if Portugal attacks Netherlands or Spain or defends against Ming. But there's a chance that I can keep Ming to +0 if Portugal bounce them out of Hainan. And I quite like this. And once again, Turtle Druid's trying everything he can to make a deal with someone to stay alive in this game, because so far everyone's been screwing him. And I say to Turtle, like, okay, this time I actually mean it. I actually have reason to do this. And I start feeding Tokugawa Ming's moves. And Ming have told me they're going to attack both Kyoto and Kyushu. They can, of course, completely guarantee for themselves here Kyushu if I tap Kyoto. Well, it's not even guaranteed really based on what could happen here, but because Shikoku could defend Kyushu instead of Kyoto. But I tell Tokugawa there's going to be two on Kyoto. I'm going to be supporting Tsushima to Kyoto, so Shikoku needs to defend Kyoto. And if you defend Kyushu with Kuroshio, yes, it leaves Bone-in open, but it means that Ming gets nothing. And then next year, with all my builds and with their nothing, I'm going to stab them. And they say, that's okay. And I basically said to them, like, I'm stabbing them, but I need Aomori right now. So don't contest Aomori. And they resigned to losing Aomori by this point. So I'm saying, I'm going to take a dot off you, but it means that Ming is not going to take two more dots off you. You need this to survive. And Tokugawa say, yep, awesome, let's do this. Of course, I'm worried that Tokugawa is going to immediately run to Ming and say, hey, Qing leaked the attack. They're going to stab you, start a war, which could have been a play for Tokugawa, but we might turn around and just go, okay, fuck you, we're going to kill you because of all that. So Tokugawa doesn't tell Ming, which is really nice. And I feed Tokugawa how to defend. Let's go to moves. So I support Ming to Kyoto, Toku defends it. Ming support themselves to Kyushu, and Toku defends it. Netherlands is more worried about Formosa with the two units here than they are about Bonin Island, so they don't stab Toku. And Portugal bounced Ming out of Hainan. What's more, they're really annoyed with Mughals about these cores, and I went to Mughals and I said, hey, Ming's really unhappy with you. You need to support yourselves to make sure they don't get any dots off you. Ming didn't attack Mughals, but they did tap to stop the core embargo. So, just starting some drama here. Mughals move up towards Safavids to full stab them, and Russia finally do stab Safavids. So Safavids are suddenly not having a good year. And they get Trebizond, but they're losing a few dots around here. Russia actually effectively gets some stabs off on Safavids. So one of the big threats in the game, having gone 5-5, suddenly has a bad year. I believe Safavids go -1 this year, which is really nice. And I'm growing like crazy. I decided to cover Karakoram in inverted commas to make sure that Turfan couldn't take it. But it's really because I want to put myself in position around Turfan here. I don't need a core in Orgu. It's not a great core. Hohot is just a better... I mean, if Hohot does much the same job. If I want a core down, I want it somewhere like Krasnoyarsk or Karakoram. Maybe I could have done this, but I really want to make sure Ming doesn't get any growth. Ming have been stalling for a bit now, and I think they could be worried that I'm going to stab them. So they could have bounced me out of Hanyang, tried to take Karakoram, tried to start making some moves on me, but they don't. And I covered Karakoram. I didn't need to. I could have finished the core, but it's not that important. This was always going to happen 100% of the time, because I basically just say to Inuits, like, hey, I'm 100% covering Sahalian here because you weren't meant to be in Okhotsk, which means that you need to 100% move to Ainu, because I could move to Ainu if I'm lying. So there's no reason for either of us to stab each other. How about we both just cover our dots and make sure we can't stab each other? So I get into Aomori, I get into Hanyang. I am just baffled that Ming let me into Hanyang. And this wasn't a stab. Tokugawa had been sending me like hypnotizing messages saying, you will stab Ming, you will move to Hanyang, you will do all this stuff. And I believe at this point Toku believed that I was stabbing Ming, even though I still support Ming towards them. But yeah, I say, hey, I'm dotting Hanyang and Ming don't like me and, all this. This was agreed, which is just... It boggles the mind. And um, I think it was Squid who messaged me and said, "Oh, was Han Yang agreed?" And I said, "Yeah." And Squid just said, "Oh my god, some people are dumb in this game." And I chatted with Muck about this after the game, and Muck said they didn't feel like they had the sway against me to ask to break a deal. So they really felt like it would have been a hard and fast deal they'd be breaking if they said don't take Han Yang. Where the agreement was I'd get Korea, but the agreement wasn't that I'd get it immediately. And I was just happy to say, like, yeah, well, I'm helping you, so I'll take one of your dots, and that'll be fine. And the fact that this never should have happened, but I was very happy that this happened because, of course, Ming get their one, but they also lose their one. So we can have a look at the scoreboard and see that Ming went +0. Yeah, Safa would get a build, but that's only because I think they went neutral this year. I guess they're on 15 still. But look who's in third place. We get a Qing that went +3, 4. So very nice year for the Qing, and we overtake Safavids, and we're up into the best regional position because there are other top nations here: Inuit, Poland, Netherlands, England, all colonials or pseudo-colonials. So Inuits start doing a lot better, which is, well, we're working together hard here, and I'm setting up for a stab on Ming, so I don't mind that Inuits are strong because it means that they can actually head off England because, holy shit, England went +9. England went fucking ham this phase, and look at the percentages here. First place is 64%, and second place is 35.7%. And Netherlands is a colonial at about a little bit over half the percentage of England. England are just going to run away with this game. They have 41 supply centers at this point. So England's going to go fucking crazy. Yeah, Netherlands are not really in position to do much. So it's really, now it's down to people like me and Safavids to start reining England in. And this is where the board coalition pressure against England really starts ramping off in full. Because Portugal have a terrible year. They go -4. France go -6. Ottomans go -8. Holy fuck. So a lot of big nations start falling and falling hard. England have gone crazy. They're up to 64%. They're way in front. So yes, I'm doing well, but the alarm bells start kicking in that this game's going to be an England solo. And it's not too much of a spoiler for 2.2Q for me to say that I've played in 4 games, and in 3 of them, England has gotten out to a huge lead at the start. So I'm just worried, England's going to solo this game. It's 3 years into the game and they're up to 64%. I'm playing about as good a game as I could ever imagine in my regional area, and I'm not going to win because England's going to solo the game, and there's nothing I can do about it. So this is where all of the thinking on the board becomes, how do we stop England? Who do we get to stop England? And Sweden and Poland have been attacking the Netherlands in Bremen, and Netherlands was saying, well, I'm going to start building some fleets and I'm going to go and attack England. And Poland and Sweden said, well, we don't know if we trust you, so we're just going to attack you. I mean, how dumb is this by Sweden attacking Bremen when they want an enemy against England? Because England is coming for Sweden, and Sweden decide to stab the Netherlands. I mean, just what the hell is going on here? So, yeah, people need to start stopping England, and Portugal is enabling England to grow in India. Mughals are moving away from England and enabling them to grow in India. Guarani is in Africa. I haven't pointed this out at this point, but this unit here in Gaber taking Niani is Guarani, which is so fucking funny. Like, Guarani and Portugal are at war. They got convoyed over into Niani, into Gaber at some point, and now Portugal and Guarani are fighting. England's using Guarani. It's a fucking mess. The Netherlands are, they're still doing all right, but they're not dotting England in the Caribbean when they could. England is killing France. So this is part of what's happening here, is that France is just fucking collapsing. So England and Inuits working together. And Athapaska now working against them and everything as well. So England is a monster on this board. But that said, we're talking about Qing's game, and Qing has just done quite well. Let's go to builds. You can see already what I'm going to do. And I get my 4 builds, I've got 5 spots open, and I decide to not wave Ho-Hot. At this point, Ming have just gone +0. They're not able to build in Lanzhou. Surely they must see what's going to happen. I've got 4 armies here, right, ready to go. And I I was saying to them, like, oh no, I built Fleet East Coast Pyongyang because I trust you not to attack Hanyang. Because, I mean, if I wanted to support Hold Hanyang, I either build an army or a Fleet West Coast. Fleet West Coast gives the game away immediately, so I can't do that. But I build in Ho-Hot, and I was trying to say to them, like, hey, last time I pissed off Inuits by building in Shichiha, not Ho-Hot, and this time they've gone +4. I don't want them building a ton over here, so I made this deal whereby I'd wave Haishenwai and they would build Fleet Kerek's East Coast, which can't come and threaten me. So I think Ming saw partly what was coming, but they were a little bit resigned to not being able to do much about it or not having the decision making to pull the trigger. So I get away with this, which is crazy. But I build in Ho-Hot, I build in Shichiha, and I think it's pretty clear I'm coming straight for Ming. I've got my core off in Yakutsk, so I can start moving this army away. There's no reason for me and Inuits to be fighting. I've got a nice build out of them. They want to start going to NPO and really taking over. I'm in Japan, and I make this deal with Tokugawa where I'm going to take Fusan with the army in Ichigo, and I'm going to convoy out. So I've done these builds. Ming aren't able to get anything out. Portugal full disbands down here, which is fine. Ming's going to get a dot in Hainan, but they're going to lose a lot more before the end of the year is over. So Spain get a build out. Yeah. Does any of this matter? No, not really. Let's go to moves. As we can see, I start the full move down. And Ming clearly saw some of this coming because they moved to Xining and they moved their fleet to Nanking. So they're going, well, I'm taking what I'm taking from Portugal, so I'm going to come back and make sure I'm a little bit defensible. And they had actually told me, because I was asking them, like, what they were going to do in their inevitable war against the Mughals. I was trying to convince both Ming and Mughals that it was inevitable that the two of them would fight. Even though there had been no fighting between them at any stage. And they were saying, well, actually, no, I'm going to attack Ayutthaya with Mughals and we're going to get on fine. So they do move down towards Ayutthaya with Kunming, which is kind of wild. If, in my opinion, it gets more armies away from me when I'm obviously going to stab them here. They had told me they were moving to Xining, so I decided to put 2 on Peking rather than put 2 on Lanzhou, because there was a world where I'd be able to take both Turfan and Lanzhou here, but if they move to Xining, they can always support Turfan to Lanzhou and defend it. So I decided not to move to, I think it was what, he would have been the one to move to, and I would have been able to put 2 on Lanzhou, but I decided to go to Shaanxi instead, put pressure on Chengdu, Peking. It's a really nice place to be. So I've got 2 on Peking. Sadly, Ming put themselves in a position where they can defend Peking as well because of this move to Nanking. So Ming defend against this stab a little bit. Not fully, because they really should have been moving to Chengdu here. But yeah, I'm not able to take Peking or Lanzhou in the fall here, but I get my army across into Fusan. And this is my deal with Tokugawa. I'm saying, like, hey, I'm not going to attack you anymore. I'm coring in Aomori, but that's not going to kill you. I just want to be able to build closer to the ocean and closer to Inuits. And I get my army out of the mainland, which limits my ability to start eating Tokugawa dots. But it really shows, like, hey, I am piecing you, Tokugawa, and we're going to get on. So at this point, Tokugawa start trusting me. And because I'd fed them the moves the last turn, they did trust me here at this point. And they move out of Edo to start putting themselves into position to defend their other dots. Of course, this army could go to Kyoto, Osaka, or Edo, so it's a pretty rough position for them. They're very happy that I've gotten out and into Busan. And of course, this fleet gets blown up, which is really nice. It's getting another troop down. And I was able to secure that Tokugawa would tap both Tsushima and Yellow Sea. Because, of course, one of the things I was worried about was Ming attacking Hanyang and just saying, well, you're attacking me, so I'm going to attack you. And there's no way for me to defend it, except if both of these fleets are tapped. So because I'm tapping Fusan, they can't attack, they can't support from Fusan. So it would have to be Fusan to Hanyang. But Because Kyushu taps Yellow Sea, this is impossible. So Tokugawa would do this in a way where they can defend themselves. There was never any threat on but it's really nice that I get into Fusan. And yeah, the attack on Ming is on. And not long after I begin this attack, I go immediately to Ayutthaya and I say, hey, Ming is attacking you. Very obviously they're attacking you, so now is the time to begin attacking them. And I say, like, hey, you and Mughal still get on, right? Let's convince Mughals to attack Ming. And I go to Mughals and I say, okay, it's time. It's time for us to start working together. I appreciate that you're moving now back down towards England. Even if England get into Gondwana and have a free run at Sasaram, kind of. I say to Mughals, like, okay, the time is now. Attack Ming. They're not going to expect it because they're angry at me, so you should come and snipe them. And Mughals say, yes, okay, let's attack Ming. Me and Ayutthaya were waiting for you to go in first. And, I mean, neither Mughals or Mughals nor Ayutthaya are really doing anything. Ayutthaya's been having a rough game in Indonesia here. But, yeah, the fact that they go in on Ming here is wild to me, because I would have thought that Ming would be immediately saying, I'm so sorry, Ayutthaya, I'm going to make it up, and saying, Mughals, you're my best friend, etc. But I do say, yeah, Mughals make up with Safavids here, supposedly, to focus on England, because Safavids just had a bad year. I guess Mughals are going, well, I want dots to defend against England, I want to build in Sasaram and push them back, so I convinced them to go in on Ming, which is really nice for the position. And Ming is fucked. I knew they weren't going to bounce me out of 2 meds here because they wanted to finish their core, which they delayed by a turn to tap Yarkand for a thing that didn't happen. So another piece of good fortune here is that I'm able to know that Ming are not going to be bouncing me. I'm able to just do 3 moves straight in, surround it, Turfan is mine. Let's keep going. Let's not beat around the bush too much. Let's go to moves and see how this keeps going. Yep, so exactly as I expected. Well, because I wasn't 2 on Lanzhou, they didn't need to defend it, but I knew they were going to bounce me out of Lanzhou here. But I get into Turfan, it means they can't retreat to Lanzhou. This is the right move. And the other thing is, because I knew they were going to do this move here, like, the correct defense here is always to support Yellow Sea to Peking, because this makes sure I can't put 2 and get in, because of course Yellow Sea is going to be tapped again, because Tokugawa is now my vassal and clearly is just doing whatever I want. So I decide not to tap Peking. I decide not to tap Chengdu because clearly Hokkien going to cover Chengdu. And I put myself in Xi'an, Shaanxi, and He all at the one time. So I get 3 armies in really nice position to start applying some pressure. Ming reads Mughals like a book and defends properly. And Mughals make no progress against Ming. Mughals leave Burhanpur, England walks in. Mughals leave Cuttack, and England walks in. So Mughals clearly made a couple of bad guesses here in terms of tactics. Unfortunate, but England are really starting to grow. And it feels like no matter what I'm doing, I'm playing a really nice game. But England is just going to take over the board. So I'm getting as much as I can get this turn, which is I get myself Fusan and I get myself Turfan. But there's a lot of growth coming. I get to. Here's another interesting move in this game, is that I move Yenisei to Ob, because my original plan, moving Yakutsk to Yenisei, was I'd come into Krasnoyarsk and I'd start coring, because I want units over here if Safavids ever continue to do well, or if I want to attack Mughals or whatever here. But I start making a deal with Mughals, because Mughals and Safavids made up in the spring moves, as you'll remember. So I said to them, like, hey, I'll come into Ob, I'll help you into Turkestan, and then you can help me into Verkhotuye. Because I'm trying to look for a way to nab some extra dots, helping people in some areas. And so I move into Ob here to put pressure on Turkestan, to put pressure on Verkhotuye. And it just boggles the mind how this keeps happening. Mughals get supported into Turkestan and vacate Yarkand at the same time. I told Mughals, make sure that Yarkand is not open, because I knew I was supporting myself into Turfan. So not only did Mughals know that Ming would be able to retreat to Yarkand, Mughals knew that if their attack was successful, that Russia would be able to support themselves into Yarkand. So I have absolutely no idea what Oberon was thinking to leave Yarkand open here. And they were thinking, oh, we're stabbing Ming, we'd better do it properly. They move everything away from Safavids, and Safavids stab the shit out of them. So Ahmadabad gets taken, a convoy in happens. I think Safavids must have been saying, well, I'm attacking Portugal, not you. But Safavids stab the shit out of Mughals, and they help Mughals into Turkestan, which is very interesting, while doing the stab. But it means that Mughals are totally out of position to do anything. They're out of... Safavids get into Bayuli, so Safavids are going to take Turkestan. There's no way the Mughals are going to be able to help me into Verkhoturye anymore. So my army's now just like sitting in Ob, twiddling its thumbs, thinking, what the hell am I doing here in Ob? I should have gone to Krasnoyarsk and Kord. Of course I should have gone to Krasnoyarsk and Kord. But I'm now sitting here with nothing to do because Mughals are getting stabbed. They're not going to be able to work with Safavids. They're going to collapse. Elsewhere, let's look at what's important. I start convincing Inuits to move away. I could have moved into Evenki here and nabbed an extra dot. I could have moved into Ayunu here and nabbed an extra dot. And there is a world where maybe stabbing for some more dots was the right play, because I went +2 here, which is not a huge amount of growth. But my thinking here is that if I declare war on everyone at once, suddenly my vassal might not want to be my vassal anymore. And, more importantly, Inuits are next to England, and England is going fucking crazy. And they're still working with England at this point, but my thinking is I need a strong neighbour that gets on with me, that I can convince at some point to attack England. So I don't go for these 2 dots. I knew that both Evenki and Ainu would be open. And Inuits just decided to trust me that I wasn't going to stab them, and it's a good thing I didn't... The devil in my eyes lit up where I saw I could get Ainu, Evenki, and Edo and go +5, and I really thought about it, because Toku were not meant to be covering Edo, but Toku did cover Edo, and they told me that it was because they were worried about this fleet in NPO 1, which is totally fair enough, because Inuits are going to want to go for Edo at some point. It was part of the agreed dot share when we discussed attacking Tokugawa, it was that Inuits would get Edo. So Toku defend themselves against Inuits. I don't stab Tokugawa. I'm able to get Tsushima blown up as well because of the self-bounce in Yellow Sea. Yeah. So, and I'm able to get an army back closer towards Tokugawa if I ever want to do anything. So I'm still sitting in a position where my foot is absolutely crushing the windpipe of Tokugawa, and they can't do anything. And that's what you really want with a vassal is, yeah, you want them to work with you, but you also want them to know they have no choice. Like, you don't want to give them free reign to maybe dot you and make a rebellion. You want to show them, like, yeah, I'm the only one working with you. Look, Ming and Netherlands are trying to attack you. You need to stick with me. Netherlands try to dot bone in. Ming tries to support Netherlands into Kyushu. It doesn't work. And I went to Soda at this point, and I was saying, like, hey, you're a Ming sympathizer, derogatory, and it's not going to work. And they're like, oh, well, where else am I meant to get my dots? And you're coring in Ayomori, so I know that Qing's going to try and do something. I think it's important to mention, I think it was around this time of the game where Soda tried to start flipping people to attack me, because they saw me coring Aomori and they thought, oh, Qing's going to be a long-term problem in this area. They're going to come and crush me no matter what I do in the area. So they were trying to say to Tokugawa, like, hey, we can peace out and you can flip on your guy. And Tokugawa showed no interest in doing that. Ming was still angry with Tokugawa, wanted to get a dot back, and the best way Ming can get a dot back here is by going to Kyushu. I heard from Inuits, I believe, that Soda had tried to start plotting against me, but also looking in messages and voids and things after the game, there's not a lot of evidence that Netherlands really did try to start something. I saw messages between Inuits and Tokugawa where they said, oh, it looks like maybe Netherlands wants us to attack Qing. I can't find any messages where Netherlands is actually proposing this. So, as far as I'm aware, this might have been just kind of made up by Inuits to see what can happen. And Inuits then told me about this, and so I was then distrustful of Netherlands and went to Netherlands saying, hey, why are you doing this? I didn't just hear about this Netherlands ploy from Inuits. I also heard about it from England. And I suspect this might have been some Inuits in England way of making sure that I wasn't going to attack Inuits or something. I don't know, because Inuits in England were working together, so I don't quite know what England's part in that all was, but I suspect there was some subterfuge from Inuits here to make me paranoid, and that I can't attack them, but I was never going to attack Inuits in this game state, so that might have been Inuits trying to defend against me dotting Ainu and Evenki. That might have been what was going on here. I don't know. Either German fan or Soda, correct me in the comments if there's things about this plan I don't know. But what I do know is I think Tokugawa were looking to bite on a plan to flip, but what Inuits weren't showing much interest, and people decided not to flip against me, which, great for me. So I get to keep attacking Ming unperturbed. I'm getting my armies in really nice positions. And that was a fall turn. I've gone +2, so let's have another look at the scoreboard. England's been slowed a little bit. They still go +4 though, so they're not exactly slowing down. Safavids have a nice year again with their stab coming off on Mughal, so they're putting themselves back in the hot seat to be the closest nation to England. And of course, the gap is nearly 30%. And if this is the first Imperial Diplomacy game that you're watching a recap of, to win the game, you need to not only get to 100% of your VSCC, but you also need to be 30% ahead of the person below you in the standings. So England is dangerously close to getting this margin and winning. If they were to somehow get 30% next year, they would just win the game. So people still need to put the coolers on England, and I am still going into every chat I can and typing .sb, showing people the scoreboard and saying, hey, England is a big worry. Please do something about it. And a lot of coalitions and chats start coming up, and people are saying, we need someone to block. Who's it going to be? And both Safavids and I are saying we're the blocker and you need to feed us, but we're going to do better than each other. We've both got good stabs on. Don't worry, we'll be in position to block as long as you don't fuck with us. And England's big threat. But yeah, it's a little bit of a minimal growth for me, but I'm in a really nice position. Let's have a look at the clean map. And I've got my 3 armies here. I've got my 3 armies here. I've got so many armies bearing down on me. It's not funny. I'm going to be able to build in Pyongyang, West Coast. I do want to first show this funny situation here because Yarkand had 2 units that could both go to it. And I'll show you the retreat. And both Russia and Ming try to go to Yarkand. They blow each other up, and Mughals get to keep Yarkand, which is just very funny how that happened. So Mughals keep Yarkand despite vacating it and 2 units being dislodged next to it. So miracle for Mughals here to keep that going. Let's move to builds. So sadly, Mughals have told me there's no way they're going to be able to defend their north. So they say to me, hey, if you can come and try and take some of these dots, go for it, and start warring Safavids. I don't really want to war Safavids at this stage because the 2 of us need to block England. And Squid and I have the ability to work together, and I'm not going to say immediately, hey, I'm definitely going to attack you. We'll look at builds. Yeah, I get my fleet out West Coast, and I get another army in Hohhot ready to come and push into these Ming dots properly. I'm going to be making progress into Ming. Inuits don't build over near me, which is nice. We get a 3rd Netherlands unit over here, which is a little bit worrying, but because they're starting to work with Ming, and I want to take Ming dots. But I believe I've snuffed out any insurrection at this stage of the game. I believe firmly that Netherlands was trying to start a coalition against me. It's only until after the game ends that I see that maybe there wasn't that much going on. But in talking to Soda and trying to work things out, I say to them, like, well, why don't you go for Ming's dots instead? That's the dots that's going to crumble. I'm propping up Toku. You're not going to get anything from Toku. And they say, well, I'm just worried that if I go for Macau and Hainan, that I'm going to be pushed out by you just as Ming pushed out Portugal. And I say, well, I need you on side against England. I promise that if you go for Ming, you're not going to get stabbed by me because I need you as an ally against England. And I think this is what convinces Netherlands to attack Ming. I think it's at this stage of the game anyway, but I basically try and say, like, why are you trying to mess with me? I want to keep the game alive, and I will help you into dots here, because Netherlands, have they... Yeah, they've got some relations over here. They're able to stop England in here. They got Bremen back as part of their dealings with Sweden and Poland and everything, but England is still looking like an absolute monster in Europe. They've got all these fleets out. So I need Netherlands to not start throwing to England. I need them to stay on side and be part of the coalition to block. So this build in Formosa, I think, is starting to look at Macau. Or it was also possibly because Spain could build in Manila and Netherlands and Spain were not getting on very well. Quite bizarrely, Ming had two builds here and decided not to build in Lanzhou. I think they just went, well, it's guaranteed gone, so why would I go there? And they build two here because they clearly don't trust Mughals for whatever reason. So they build both here. They put themselves in position to defend against Mughals and not me. And I'm rapt to see this because a Ming army up here. They also got blown up in Turfan, so they can't retreat to Zaisan and start moving on Krasnoyarsk, stuff like that. I did know that Karakorum could cover Krasnoyarsk if they did retreat to Zaisan, but yeah, Ming aren't really building towards me to defend against me, but they're still very much wanting to defend against me and slow me down as much as possible. Because they believe they have an ally in the Netherlands that's going to help them. They believe they have an ally in Mughals that's going to help them against Ayutthaya and me. So that's a state of play coming into this turn after these builds. Let's go to moves. I get into Lanzhou. Nothing's ever going to go wrong there. I put myself into a Juristan to put pressure on Xining. This move I should talk about. I had said to Safavids, because I had my eyes on Verkhoturye, and I said, you're stabbing Mughals in Russia here, so you don't have the time to worry about Verkhoturye. You shouldn't go to Verkhoturye. You should leave that to me. And Squid said, I don't think Squid responded, but it was clear from the press that there was no way that Squid was going to let me take Verkhoturye. And I said, okay, I took your advice and I moved towards a dot that was closer to me. Because I wanted Yarkand, and I'm moving 3 down here. But I also knew that Squid was going to be moving 3 in on Yarkand. Like, this is always going to happen. And they originally were like, no, I'm taking Verkhoturye, I'm taking Yarkand because I'm the one that's going to be able to block England. The logic I said to them was that, well, Balkash is here. You don't want Balkash here because it's next to your border. There's nothing else it can do except sit here. So if you let me take Yarkand from Balkash, I can then move it down into Sangpar, and you can take Yarkand next year after I take it this year to get my army away from you. And Squid reluctantly agrees and says, fuck, okay, fine. I guess you can take Yarkand from Balkash here because I'm putting 3 here to get on it. They know I can stop them if I really want, although I probably want to Juristan to be attacking Xining as part of what I'm doing here. Ming defend themselves in Chengdu, so I'm not able to get it, but I get into Liaodong, and Peking's going to be falling here. I've got enough around it, so I don't get into Yellow Sea because Ming do this defensive resource. I roped Netherlands in to start helping against Ming, and part of that was tapping East China Sea, and part of that was them moving to Fokien Strait. So I've got not just Mughals moving in on Ming, I've got Netherlands moving in on Ming now as well. And yeah, so looking really nice to me. I'm in Lanzhou. I might be able to take Xining, and I can possibly take Lanzhou, Xining, Chengdu, Peking, Yarkand, and potentially Tokugawa dots if I really need to grow to convince people I'm blocking. So I'm also next to Ainu if I need to block. So, oh yeah, this move. I'd told Inuits. Oh yeah, no, I moved away. I don't need to talk about that. I'm moving away from Inuits with this unit here. But the attack is continuing really nicely in earnest. Safavids are growing. I'm growing. Yeah, and we may as well go forwards. Let's go to moves. So I start coring in Turfan, because I really want to core down in this area, particularly with Squid moving all these armies over here. And the first thing you'll notice with this move phase is Squid moving to Yarkand, but with only a strength of 1. And of course, if Squid wanted to stab me for Yarkand, they could just support themselves in and take it. But Squid's logic here afterwards was, oh, well, I thought you were supporting yourselves in, and I wanted to make it look like we were fighting or something. But, oh, God. So Moogles get to keep a dot. Moogles is someone that he's fighting. It's in his interest for me to be taking that dot. I had permission from Moogles to take Yarkand, and Squid bounces me out. I don't get it. And my army's stuck up here in Belkash. So, pretty unfortunate here that I'm not able to get into Yarkand. But everywhere else, things are looking really nice. So, I had promised... So, Ming, at the end of the previous phase, when Netherlands stabbed them, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And they said, I'm so sick of all these neighbors stabbing me when it makes no sense. Mughals are getting murdered by the Safavids, and they decide to keep stabbing Ming. And Netherlands have stabbed Ming now, and Ming just went, okay, fuck all of these guys. I'm done slowing you down, Qing. Let me know if you can solo this year. Of course I'm not going to be able to solo this year, but I say like, oh, help me grow and I can stop England soloing and I can grow well and win the game. So Ming at this point decided to start throwing to me. And they're trying to make amends with Tokugawa. They're trying to support Tokugawa into Ryukyu, but we decide actually it's better for me to get into Yellow Sea and start taking stuff. One of the other things I said was they wanted to be able to take Rinpungpa back for themselves, so they wanted me to not tap Chengdu. They wanted, this move to come off and for them to get in. But I took Chengdu anyway because I wanted the dot. I wanted to grow and I wanted to keep making progress. And I kind of sold it off as like, oh, well, I wasn't sure because, the Mughals player subbed out for temporarily for a period of time here. And I was worried when the new Mughals sub came in. New Mughals sub, Casual, I think their name was. And they said, I'm going to tell you honestly, I have no interest in continuing attacking Ming. And I was really worried that Ming and Mughals would peace out and that Ming would then suddenly have an ally to defend them in the area. So I decided I can't trust that they're going to take Rinpungpa. They might use Chengdu to try and defend Xining. So I need to just attack Chengdu. You can see here they walk out of Peking. And I'm able to take Peking without even needing Shaanxi to support myself in. And they move down towards Netherlands. So Ming is starting to full throw. And I get 1, 2, 3, 4. And it should have been 5 dots this turn. But I don't get into Yarkand. I'm not able to do anything. And Inuits are starting to put their stamp on North Pacific Ocean. The previous phase, they had moved into Philippine Sea and Halmahera Sea, which is very interesting for them. And Solomon Islands. So Inuits are invading Southeast Asia, which is very funny. I love it because it means they're not attacking me. I think at this point, Inuits had started attacking England. Yeah, so England took Godthab and Inuits were starting to work with France in this regard against England. So finally, we've got someone trying to slow down England, but England's still doing very well in the area. They've completely kicked Netherlands out of the Caribbean. Poland's doing all right under the main enemy, but Aymara is helping England into dots, which I think Aymara needed to make friends in the area and kick out Spain, but Aymara is playing a really dangerous game by letting England get so big. We'll see if it comes back to bite them. So England is still going crazy, but this is a really nice year for me. I'm in really nice position. I'm leaving myself next to Kyoto. I'm in position to stab it if I need to. I'm getting 4 builds out. I'm going to be able to put them in really nice positions. I'm getting a core in Turfan that can't be tapped. One of the things I was worried about was if Squid stabbed for Yarkand, Yarkand could tap Turfan and stop that core. Even it would risk it, but I was really wanted to get this core down for long term in the area, whether I'm going south, whether I'm going west, what I'm doing. I need this core, particularly because I never cored Krasnoyarsk. And because I never cored Krasnoyarsk, I need Turfan. So I'm moving this army up here with the logic that it's going to come over and core Krasnoyarsk. That's what I'm telling Inuits anyway. Really, I did want to leave myself in position to defend Yakutsk if, there's a build stab and they move to Saka and all of that. So I'm just waiting against a build stab by moving to Buyati here. But yeah, really nice position. Tokugawa's not able to deploy because Netherlands try to stab the Bonin Islands yet again, which is very funny. Netherlands start coring in Ryukyu, which is also pretty funny. Yeah. So that's the state of play before the end of the year, and we'll have a look at the scoreboard again to see how things are going. Oh, the builds aren't shown in this scoreboard, I guess. England was on 45 and is now at 52. So they went +7. So a very, very scary year from England. And what we can really start seeing is 90.5 is the percentage that they're at. This is where the coalition chats are going into full swing. And we're saying to everyone, like, hey, it needs to be us that blocks. And Congo's growing quite well. They're up to 18 now, so they're not too far behind me in 20. We're both 4 nations, so Congo doing well, but really it needs to be me or Safavids who blocks. And England, if they continue to grow at the rate they are just going to win the game. In full flight, I've gone +4. Safavids, I think, went plus a bunch as well. I don't know the exact total. What is it? 22. They went +3. So an all right year from Safavids, a better year from me. I'm putting myself in prime position to beat a blocker. And a kind of Cold War starts happening between me and Squid. And there was a bit of frustration around Yarkand because I was saying, well, I'm getting my army away from your border by doing this, so you should want me to do this. But Squid was saying, well, no, I need Yarkand next year. I need to be the blocker. Yada yada. I'm in better position to block because they were saying, oh, well, I can get dots off Russia. I can get dots in Africa here with the help of the Netherlands, and there's stuff they can do. And they're saying they're in position to be the blocker. I've got a vassal I can eat at any time. I've got Ming throwing to me. And I've got a friend in Inuits that is now, if we go back to the scoreboard, Inuits is not in position to really win this game. I think at this phase, the coalition chat kind of had the top 8. I think there was some surrender floated that included all of the top 8 nations here, and it was never going to pass, but it was an interesting question because Inuits were included, but people are voting no on this, of course, because England is 30% ahead of anyone else, like 33% ahead of me at this point, so they've already got the gap. But Inuits, I think, are starting to resign themselves that they're not going to win the game, so I am hoping that I can convince them to help me because we've been allies all game. They're fighting England for me, which is really nice, and I'm hoping I can get some dots off them. So I'm hopeful I can be a nice blocker next year. So I put myself in position with my builds to take dots off of my friends. So I build in Chichihar in case I want to walk to Evenki. We can pull that lever if we need to. I did this to convince Inuits I wasn't stabbing, that I'm going to move next to Ainu and I can take it if I need to block this year, because really this year the game ends if I'm not able to block. So Ming does some really nice disbands around me. Yeah, so I'm just pumping out stuff. My job is to grow as much as possible, and I've convinced Inuits to let me next to 2 of their dots, and we can decide whether I get them or not, and they're in position to bounce me out if they don't want me taking them. So it's very much a voluntary dot-taking exercise. At this point, I realize with the scoreboard the way it is, I absolutely need to now kill Tokugawa. And I hate having to do this because I'm the reason they've survived this long and we've been getting on very well. They've been helping me. Turtle Druid's a great guy, but I need dots and I'm in position to start eating them. I can get Pyongyang out into OKC. I can get stuff over into Japan. I can start taking their dots. And at this point, Aymara had been offering to get into NPO and help me into Edo, which I liked. Inuits was also saying, well, hey, can I get you into Edo? And, I'm positioning myself as a blocker and saying everyone needs to help me as much as possible. Poland, for some reason, seemed to think that Safavids was the better blocker. I did not think that Safavids had as much growth as me, and Safavids, of course, this is the Cold War. It's the propaganda. It's trying to convince people that you're the one that needs to get dots. And Safavids clearly was doing a pretty good job with some of these people because Poland messaged me and said, hey, I think Safavids is the blocker this year. Don't stab for Yarkand. And I said, I'm not stabbing Yarkand anyway. The agreement Squid and I had come up with was that Balkash would go to Yarkand and then down to Sangpa. So in fall, Squid would still get Yarkand and we wouldn't debate it. So I'm not going to be going for Kabul. I'm not going to be going for Yarkand. But Poland was trying to say, like, oh no, Safavids is the blocker. And I'm thinking, what are you talking? They're the ones that caught Trebizond. You're worried that they're going to build a fleet in the Black Sea. Why are you trying to pump up Safavids so much? And yes, I guess they wanted the game to get going, but I thought it was pretty clear that I had more growth, particularly with Ming starting to throw to me. So, I don't know. All my job is grow and convince people to keep letting you grow. So let's have a look at some moves this year. I put myself next to Ainu. I put myself next to Evenki. I'm starting to move another army west. Oh, yeah. Okay. This phase, a very unfortunate thing happened. And it was that 1 hour before moves were meant to be published, the angel of the game, Fireborn, accidentally published moves and ran the command. They meant to run a test command and they accidentally ran the published commands. So I don't believe anyone saw the map, even though it got posted in the hub server. I think that got posted down pretty quickly. But people got notified with what retreats they would have. And neither Safavids nor England had input their orders yet. I think England had been having a lot of stuff on in real life and weren't able to be on to do their orders until close to deadlines. So, and it was known that they were not online when the orders were accidentally published. So they were allowed to post their orders as normal before the deadline. But the Safavids player Squid saw the retreats that he would have, which had to, when he didn't have any orders in. So he got way too much information about what other people were doing. So he knew, and it really goes to the credit to Squid for his integrity in this moment was that he admitted he'd seen the retreats and he knew he couldn't do his own orders. So he got one of his specs to gunboat the orders for him, which, I mean, I can't credit Squid enough for behaving with integrity in this moment, in knowing he couldn't do the orders. So these orders were done by one of Squid's specs, and of course, as soon as I saw that Safavid's orders were going to be gunboated by a spec, I knew that I was not going to walk through Yarkand like I had planned. And I knew instantly for the second phase in a row, my army was going to be stranded here in Balkash. I wasn't going to be able to get into Yarkand. I was kind of hoping to convince people that, you know, actually I'm the better blocker, so maybe I should stay in Yarkand. But also I was thinking, well, I can get down to Sangpa, I can start making real inroads on Mughal dots. So I did want to get into Yarkand. Because of the gunboat, I wasn't able to get in. And it's probably the most tangible impact, because otherwise Safavid's orders were pretty fine for what they were. I thought they should have tapped Kabul for sure, but they double supported them to Yarkand because clearly they were worried about Qing. I think the spec not tapping Kabul was a mistake, but otherwise Safavid's orders are pretty alright. But what matters for me is that I don't get into Yarkand in the spring. I'm unable to walk down to Sangpa with it in the fall. So I'm stranded here in Balkash, and I've got an army moving west, and foreshadowing is a literary device, etc., etc. I finished my core in Turfan as well, so I've got some good deployment out west. Foreshadowing is a literary device. We need to talk about the Mughal sub here. And Mughals, they decided coming into the game, it was a temporary sub, but they saw Mughals dying in this position, with Safavids marching on them, with huge Qing attacking Ming. Mughals saw that they would be next. And Mughals are also right here next to England. And England is 33% ahead of Qing in second place, and Safavids in third place with 35% gap. And Mughals decided their best chance of ending the game in a good position was if the game ended this year. So they decided to throw as much as they could towards England. And they convoy England into Andaman Islands, into their own dot. They attacked Safavids, and they had told me they would support me into Kunming. They tried to support Hold Ming to stop them. They move up into Bamo to help secure the area, and Ming are throwing to me. So they support me into their own dot in Kunming here. So Mughals are unsuccessful in defending here, and all they've done is piss me the fuck off. So yes, there's some tensions between me and Safavids, but I'm much more preoccupied with Mughals. For throwing to England and then trying to directly end the game by attacking the two people that have the chance to block England, when Oberon was attacking Ming with me and decided to flip on me and throw to England. Which, I mean, I will leave it for the audience to decide the ethics of this. My thinking is that if Casual was a permanent sub, this would be more justifiable. To be clear, there are two kinds of games happening in Imperial Diplomacy at the moment. There's throwing-enabled games and there's no throwing games. And this from Mughals here would absolutely be classified as throwing. But this game, 2.3 Asta, was a throwing-enabled game. So people were allowed to throw. Because also what Ming is doing is very obviously throwing as well. So people were allowed to throw in this game, is what is the point here. So if Mughals want to do this, they are allowed to. I don't feel it's very good etiquette for a temporary sub to do this and completely 180 the position of the player who was going to come back into this position. But, I mean, it is also true that if I'm killing Ming, Mughals are probably next. So it does make sense to defend against me. And if they're able to convince England to move away from Sasaram and Kolkata, maybe that's just good diplomacy. So I'm not sold that this was completely disgusting by Mughals. I certainly didn't like it. I didn't want it on the board, and so for that, there would have been a bit of bias in what I was thinking based on just thinking, well, I really didn't want you to move to Bamo here. I wanted to be taking Rinpoche in the fall and blocking. And I'm pretty sure if Oberon was still in the game, Oberon would have let me take Rinpoche for blocking, and I need as many dots as I possibly can to block here. I'm still convinced I'm the better blocker than Safavids, and Safavids get into Cairo, which is nice, but I still think I'm in the better position to block. I start setting up to stab Tokugawa, and Inuits tried to support me into Edo. I didn't take it, and this was a little bit of a pantomime thing set up to show Tokugawa how much they could trust me. That Ming tried to convoy me from Hanyang into Ryukyu Islands. And I had said to them I would accept this, but the last nation I want to stab at this point of the game is the Netherlands, because if I stab the Netherlands, there is absolutely no way the Netherlands don't throw to England. And the Netherlands are already so close to throwing to England because of the stabs on them by Congo. Congo have stabbed Netherlands, although they're moving away this phase, and I think some of this had to do with my talking to Congo and convincing them to peace out Netherlands. But also, I think the previous phase, Aymara had stabbed Netherlands, or it might be in a phase or something. And Aymara and Congo were two of the nations that could win, and Netherlands were like, well, why should I help you? Importantly, England was still stabbing Netherlands, so Netherlands had no goodwill towards England, and I was not stabbing the Netherlands, and I was trying to make a point out of like, everyone's screwing you, but I'm your friend, and if you throw to England to spite Congo and Aymara, you're spiting me, and I'm the one that's not throwing against you. So look, I'm blowing up Ming fleets while they're trying to convoy me into your dots, so please, please, please don't throw the game, because it would screw me over, and I'm behaving with honor and ethics and accepting Ming's throw and moving myself next to dots to get given by friends. So yeah, a good year for me. I get in position here, but Mughals move towards me, which is annoying. And I don't get into Yarkand, but I'm still in good position to grow a lot. And we'll go to moves, because it very much matters what happens this turn. Because England could win the game here, so we'll see how many dots I'm able to get. Inuits agreed to give me 1 dot, so they could have bounced me out of Ainu, but they chose to move to Koyaks because Aymara did not support me to Edo like they'd said they would. They tried to dot Inuit in Koyaks. Inuits decide not to give me Evenki, which is totally fine. I don't stab for Yarkand. I wouldn't have been able to. I would have been able to actually if I'd done everything with it, but I decide not to stab for Yarkand because Safavids are still someone I'm going to be friends with. And I'd said to Safs, like, if we lose the game and it's because I don't get Yarkand, I'm okay with that because I've made my mind up that this is okay. Like, yes, I need as many dots as possible, but I was pretty confident I'd still get a lot of dots. Mughals kicked me out of Kunming, and that sucks because I was really hoping to get Kunming. Mughals get back in, but at least I get into Ringpungpa and push them out. Safavids and Mughals still fighting, so Mughals is doing whatever they can to throw it, except they do take Kartak, and I think if Mughals had not taken Kartak, it would have been more obnoxious. But you can argue Mughals convoyed an English army out away from their centres and then took back a centre next to their home centres. So you can say this Mughals player is still acting in the best intentions for the nation's survival, even if they are continuing to fucking convoy. Like, look at this shit. Like, England get into Tavoy. Like, what's going on? Ayutthaya is supporting England into Tavoy. And I asked what the hell was going on here, and they said, I needed Spain gone. And then I'll take it back next year with Mughals' help. I'm like, I don't think Mughals are going to help you. They're throwing to England as hard as they can. Oh my god. So that's kind of foul, England getting into Tavoy here, but at least Mughals took Kartak back. They also tried to take Hyderabad, I think, but England bounced it. Yeah. I don't know. I stab Tokugawa fully and thoroughly. I get supported into Edo by Inuits. I get into Kyoto. I get into Kyushu. And yeah, it feels really bad. And I also I asked Inuits to tap Shikoku actually, so it couldn't support one of these units, but they decided to go for Osaka. And I am glad that Shikoku did not support Kyoto because Tokugawa could have defended against this. I think they'd kind of resigned themselves to this happening though, and they had goodwill for me because I'd kept them alive as long as I had. So I get 3 dots off of Tokugawa. I get 1 dot off of Inuits. I get 1 dot off of Ming because I kind of gain 1, lose 1 here. And we'll see if it's enough. Because I've got a bunch here. Safavids have got some, but England are still growing across the map. So England are still doing well here. Inuits lose a couple of guesses here, I believe. And yeah, England get into Naskapi and Papina Shoy. But yeah, it's all a bit weird. England are growing. Let's go to the scoreboard and see if England won the game. England did not win the game. England, again, the builds on these maps are not correct. But England got to 104%, and I blocked. I get to 78.6%. So how much plus did I go? I went +6 this year, which meant I was able to get to 78% within 30%, and I have blocked England from winning the game. Safavids would not have blocked England winning the game. They are more than 30% behind. So this is I don't see why Poland thought Safavids were the better blocker. And I was saying, like, yeah, okay, they can keep Yarkand. I'm not going to stab for it and everything. But really, I'm thinking I should be the one blocking here. Why are people giving dots to Safavids? Of course, also, I'm trying to set up to make sure I'm larger than Safavids in the future, because England still are a threat to solo the game next year if they grow well. So I'm still going to be telling people they need to give me dots so that I can block. Congo have a good year. They get up as well to 67%. We've got a group here that could win the game. And it's at this stage that a surrender vote is floated for the top 6 in the game. And this is there'd been a couple of surrender votes floated before. One of them was for the top 8, was the first one, and then there was one floated for the top 4 that Poland voted no to in about a millisecond. But this one here is proposed for the top 6 in the game, and we weren't sure how people would vote here because really below the top 6, no one has a hope of winning the game. But really below the top 5, no one has a hope of winning the game. Poland's in kind of that really awkward area, 12% behind Aimara, where they might think in the long run they could sneak into a win if the game drags on long enough. So Poland's never going to vote yes to a surrender for any fewer than 6. Congo and Aimara just want to be in any win they can, so they vote yes. And I'm looking at this and I think top 6, I'm at 78%, Poland's at 48%. But I'm still kind of scared with what Moogles is doing that maybe England can win the game next year and they can still solo. So I was partly thinking about taking this. I think I would have been more likely to take it if it had been 5-way. But I didn't want to vote yes. Fortunately for me, Safavids voted no pretty quickly. They cited a deal they had with the Netherlands where Netherlands would get Cairo. And also Portugal voted no, and also Netherlands voted no. I think because Aimara had restabbed them, or Congo had restabbed them, or something like that. And they were saying, okay, fuck this, we're not going to take this. So I was able to vote yes and not tip off to people that I wanted to vote no. Because in particular, Poland had kept talking to me about, like, hey, if we're going to win together, you and I need to kill Safavids. Because Poland, I think, knew that if they were going to win the game, they needed Safavids to be cut. I also, at this stage, I was trying to get Safavids and Poland fighting because I wanted a good border with Safavids where they wouldn't be able to send troops towards me, and I could pick and choose whether I side with Safavids, let them kill Poland and win with Safavids, or start attacking Safavids, and a Safavid attacking Poland would mean that Poland would be aggrieved and maybe troll Safavids as much as possible, and I could cut Safavids from the win. So there's a whole lot of options open to me here. But the important point is that the vote gets up. The vote does not get up. The vote is proposed for 6 and gets voted down. So the game continues into next year because I've blocked England. England need to keep growing no matter what. England have been trying to solo the whole time. But I've blocked here, and I'm still confident I have good growth ahead of me here. So, yeah, we'll see what happens coming into this next year. Let's go back to the maps. I get an army down in Yakutsk, and my argument is, well, I'm going to go over towards Safavids, but I don't want to build a fleet because Inuits have been telling me all game don't build fleets up the top because I'm really worried. Realistically, I'm building this army to go and attack the Inuit dots because those are the ones it's close to. Tokugawa disband down here, which is nice. Bonin is kept on. Yeah, Ming disband in Hainan. Their goal at this point is to use Chantang to cause some chaos around Netherlands. Inuits disband in Kerex. They disband in Kerex. They also disband in Chukchi Sea. So these 2 dots are suddenly a whole lot more attainable. And I can walk straight into Evenki now. There's nothing stopping me. I can also walk in and support myself into Chukchis. And because I moved to Ainu last year, I can move to Sea of Okhotsk and take Kerex. I pump out a bunch is basically what this boils down to. Let's have a look at moves. So we'll start with this, the Inuit stab. I move to Saka, Evenki, and Sea of Okhotsk. They move to Koyaks because they think Aimara might try and dot them again. Aimara moved to Karaginsky Gulf to try and get one of these dots. I think Aimara had no idea that I was stabbing Inuits. So I immediately went to them and was like, hey, what's this about? And they're like, oh, I was trying to stab them, but I see that you're going for it. And I said, hey, I need to block again. Is it all right if I just take these dots? And I think they realized I could just support myself in. They wouldn't be able to hold them in the long run. So they decided not to troll me. But this is, without a doubt, Inuits had said to me, hey, I think you still shouldn't take my dots at present. I think you should keep them as pocket. And in my mind, it's like, well, no, I need to block England no matter what, and I want to grow as much as I can. I'm taking your dots. I'm sorry, you're not winning the game. And I think you've realized you can't win by now, so I'm hoping that you aren't angry with me for this. Because one thing that's unfortunate is that the Arctic Ocean fleet gets dislodged by England. with all the guesses here, and Arctic Ocean can retreat to Chukchi Sea, which is next to Chukchis. So this is the kind of thing. Potentially Aymara and Inuits could do something around here and deny me from getting some of these dots. I get into Osaka. Tokugawa wanted to support me into Kuroshio. I didn't take it because I wanted to keep Inuits' goodwill and say, like, hey, I'm not declaring full war against you, I'm not tapping you. They moved out into NPO anyway. I think they tried to tap the Aymara fleet in case it tried to support something. Important thing to notice here is that the Mughals' temporary sub ended. Casual was unsuccessful in their attempt to end the game last year because I blocked. Haha. And Oberon is back into the game, and Oberon and I have had a great relationship this game. And I say to them, like, hey, I'm going to attack the Safavids here. And you hate the Safavids, so you can attack England, and we can attack the Safavids together. And they'd said to me, hey, I just noticed you have more armies next to Yarkand than Safavids have to defend. And so I attack Yarkand. And I said to Squid, like, hey, I'm just taking this to make damn sure I block, because last year everyone was saying it should be you, and it ended up being me. I'm not letting England win right now. I'm taking this back, and then you can get it next year when the game is safe. And Squid didn't believe me for a second. Squid said, no, you're trying to win. You're trying to cut me. And yeah, that's exactly what was happening. So I wanted to cut Safavids at this point. I knew this war was going to happen at some point eventually. So Poland were going to int into Safavids as much as possible. Mughals would be attacking Safavids at this point, and I'd said, hey, well, I need to take Kunming back because you attacked it from me. And then, yeah, what I convinced them here was, I said, well, Yongchang, it's annoying for you because it's in the middle of all these dots. I want to go and take Dongqing, but Yongchang can't do that. So I'm going to move into Ava and then Lan Na in the fall to attack Dongqing next year. And I'd said to them, like, yeah, you should move down into Ayutthaya here and then help Ayutthaya against England and take one of these dots for yourself. And yeah, Mughals did this to stab Ayutthaya, I believe, actually. And so because of these moves here, Ava moves to Sukhothai and I get into Ava. So I'm in currently 3 of these Mughal dots. Oud moves to Kabul successfully, which means that Sasaram has nothing next to it defending it. And Kolkata could be defended by Cuttack, but is probably moving here. So Sasaram is 100% guaranteed here. So after this phase, I start looking at how much I could get, and I start getting very excited because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dots potential. And then if I decide to stab Netherlands for Ryukyu Islands, that's 11. And if I make some predictions against Safavids correctly, Turkestan would be 12. Plus 12 for a 4-dot nation is fucking insane in this game. And it would be, I believe, there's a graph out about how many dots is how much percentage. And I think 12 dots would be 40% growth for me. And if we go back to the scoreboard, I was at 78% here. That would get me up to like 125% if I was to able to go plus 12, which would be fucking insane. But by the same token, yes, it would get me gap with England. I would be able to get up into the hundreds and maybe win the game. But yeah, I knew Safavids were not going to do well. But if we go back to the map, we'll point out Congo here in 67%. Congo is getting thrown to by Adjuran now. Adjuran is helping them everywhere across the map. Congo is able to keep doing the stab here. They're getting into fucking to Huelche. They're starting to take Mapuche dots. Don't ask me how the hell that happened. But I'm pretty confident looking at this that Congo is not going to be a blocker. That Congo is going to be a blocker. Because I think, yes, I can get up to 120 or something, but England is starting to slow down, and I don't see England getting up above 110 here. And I think, well, Congo is going to get to at least 85 here. They're going to get to 85, maybe 90%. There's not going to be a block going on. So coming into this next turn of the game, I my outlook is the game's going to continue because Congo is going to block. Yes, I can grow like crazy. I'll put myself in prime position, and that'll be really nice on the map because no one is in position to do anything about it. The person who can do the most is Safavids. They're crumbling, and also Mughals, who trust me at present, are about to lose 4 dots from me. So I look at this and I think, well, yep, I'm going to be able to cut Safavids. I'm going to be able to knock them out, and we'll see how many people win. And I'm strapping myself in for the long term. And so for that reason, I decide not to stab Netherlands in Ryukyu. We'll go ahead to a clean map before moves. I decided not to stab Netherlands in Ryukyu because I still wanted Netherlands' goodwill, which I'd been building up all game. And I figured it was too risky to attack Turkestan because I can go Yarkand to Turkestan with Balkash support, but Mughals had told me they were not tapping Gore. I was trying to get Mughals to int into Safavids as much as possible before I stabbed them for 4 dots. But they said, I don't think I can stab Gore right now. I want to focus on England and not letting them solo. The Mughals didn't realize quite how much I was growing this year because, of course, they thought I wasn't stabbing them. So they were still worried about the England solo. So they were focusing on England more than about Safavids. And this is part of what, when there's propaganda all game about big, scary England, and England is out the top of the scoreboard with 30%, it's really easy to keep pointing at the boogeyman. Or the boogie woman in this case with England. I decide not to go for Turkestan because Mughals is not tapping Gore. So yeah, let's see how well I do. I'm looking at +10 if everything goes right, because I'm not going for Turkestan, I'm not going for Ryukyu. Aymara does leave Karaginsky. Chukchi C does not tap Chukchis or anything. I go for this moveset just in case that happened, but I get Karex, I get Chukchis, I get Evenki. 1, 2, 3. I get Osaka. I defend Edo because I'm worried about fleets attacking it. 4. I stop the core in Ryukyu, but support it to show that I'm not stabbing them. I get into Macau because Ming is more worried about these colonials here. I believe there was some deal where Spain would get Hainan, Netherlands would get Bonin Islands. Macau is 5. I successfully hold all of this because Mughals do not support Bamo into Ava, which is phenomenal. They support themselves into Pigu instead of support themselves into Ava. So 6, 7, 8, 9, I get into Sasaram guaranteed, which is for sure. And I keep Yarkand, which is 10. So I go +10, and I'm setting myself up nice long term for a war against Safavids. I can build a fleet in Yakutsk. I go +10. And I look at this and I think, +10, that's great. This will be really nice to set me up long term. And then I look at the scoreboard. And we are 32% ahead of Congo because Congo only got to 82%. And England got to 114. They went +6, which is more than I expected from them in this year. It was such, in my mind, a foregone conclusion that Congo would be able to block England, even if I went crazy, that I was playing for the game to continue and to have a good attack against Safavids going forwards and to keep my relationship with Netherlands so that they would help me and, all of this stuff. And suddenly I look at the scoreboard and everyone's saying, GG, you've won. But what? This is fucking crazy. I did not expect the game to end this year. So I went +10. It says 11 because there was a build I hadn't used last year, but I went +10 in this final year. England went +6. Congo did not go +7. They had 7 builds because of a few blown up units. Yeah, so suddenly we have a 30% gap. And it's important to note that for an impunity that isn't a solo, it needs to be agreed upon by all parties of the impunity. And we'll have a look at the map. I vaguely considered that maybe I could go for the solo. I'm in nice position against Safavids. I'm going to have Poland on side because Poland hates Safavids at this point. Safavids aren't winning. Mughals will now hate me, but they also just lost fucking 5 dots or whatever. Let's see. What did Mughals go? Mughals, yeah, it says -1, but they went like -5. So they're not going to be much of a problem. I'm going to be able to kill Ming. I'm going to be able to stab the Dutch at whatever time I want. I'm keeping them on side, but I'm going to be able to pump fleets out. No one's going to be able to do anything to me. I'm going to be able to take the Koyak's final dot. Inuits still like me because we've been mates all game. I do have a line to maybe go for a solo, and England knew it. And I've seen in press with people that were saying, "Oh my god, I'm really worried that Qing will go for a solo." And if the game hadn't ended, if Congo had done better and were able to block, the game would still be going right now. And I would be looking at this position and thinking, well, can I go for the solo or for a duo with Congo or something like that? I don't know what the map is going to look like, but I'm putting myself in position to cut Safavids. Yes, Mughals and Safavids will begin to work together, but Safavids, I'm going to have England on side, so maybe I can say to England, like, hey, we need to keep growing to get this gap and start killing Mughals, start killing Safavids, cut and then stab everyone, get out to fucking 150% or whatever, and go crazy. At the same time, I wasn't sure that that would happen, and a win of 2 is pretty damn nice. Like, winning with just one other person, it feels really good out of a game with 24 or whatever. I think it's 24 players. I'll bring up the number on the screen if I'm wrong. Getting a win of 2 people is really nice. And I looked at this. I've never won before in Imp Dip, and I really wanted to notch my first win up. So I took the win, and I voted yes on the impunity vote. So the game ended in a joint impunity between England and Qing. I think it was very nice that we both ended on exactly the same percentage here. We both ended on 114.3. We had our nice little just over 30% gap. And at the end of 1648, so there were only, 7 years of play in this game? And the game ended in a joint impunity. Yeah, so this was my first win in IMTIP. I am very happy with the game I played here as Qing. I was able to manipulate relationships with people like Ming and Tokugawa early. I was able to stave off the Russia that wanted to kill me instantly, and I think both Squid and I were pivotal in manipulating Russia early for their downfall. Poland bounced back very well after Russia inting to them, but I am very happy with how I played in this game. Maybe if I had my time again, I might go for a solo, and if this wasn't going to be my first win, maybe I'd look at playing for the solo, because soloing as Qing would be pretty wild. My boy Swilyu soloed as Qing in another game recently. I think the first person to ever solo on Qing. So yeah, maybe I could have gone for the solo here, but I'm not convinced. My growth is starting to run out. If I had a fleet in Chukchis, it might be easier to come across and start taking some of these dots, but I'm not convinced I necessarily get the growth needed, and risking a 2-way win is tricky. So I have no regrets with the decision I made, and I've won for the first time in IMDIP. So I want to, shout outs to German fan. You were a great ally all game long. You got screwed over in America by some wars that were not going your way. Despite that, you did fight off England to keep the game alive, when you could easily have gone, well, I'm losing, so I'm going to throw to England. So thank you for not doing that. Thank you for letting me take Ainu to block the game in that all-important second last year. If I didn't have the relationship with you, I wouldn't have been able to do that. You also supported me into Toku Dots, so it was very, very key, the relationship I had with you. To Turtle Druid, you've read my Void by now, I'm sure, and you must have seen that I did, after Ming's rash behavior in year 1, I absolutely was saying, okay, well, I need to work with Turtle Druid here. The way the game panned out with the Russia Coalition meant that I hope that this video has convinced you that it was the right move, because I looked at it and I thought, well, if I'm using Ming and Inuits to fight Russia, I may as well use them to fight Tokugawa as well. And so I kind of formed this straight line across the map where we'd attack that way and we'd attack that way. And I think it worked really well for me. So I'm sorry that I ended up fighting you, because I came into this game actually expecting to work with you. But yeah, cheers. You were a great vassal. I know you were looking for a way out, but my foot was on your windpipe. Sorry about that. To Ming, again, I got a big stab off on you. I think you saw it partly coming. You displayed good signs in this game. I think you will be a strong player in future games. And by no means are you primarily responsible for what happened in this game. To the people I cut, so to Squid and to Barney and to Aymara, and they're the realistic ones that got cut from this game. Yeah, I didn't expect to win in that last year. And I mean, if the game had gone on, maybe I go for the solo and try and cut all of you anyway. But particularly to Barney, I know it would have been your first win, so it's unfortunate that you didn't grow enough to block. I really thought you were going to be in blocking position. I kind of saw us cutting Safavids and Aymara, and maybe the game would end in a 3-way win. But yeah, 2-way win. There we go. So I think everyone played very well. Tanga, you played a great game. Everyone's been complaining about the behavior of the other colonials in this game in enabling you to grow very well, but I don't think you should let that take away from the fact that you played a great game. You were a thoroughly deserved winner. I hope that you enjoyed the press propaganda battle in the the people trying to block, in particularly me and Squid, putting together the coalition to block you from soloing the game, in convincing people like Poland and Inuits and stuff to finally start fighting you, and Netherlands and Sweden and all of that. So I hope you enjoyed that. I know you didn't get the solo you wanted, but I think a 2-way win with you is a very good result in this game. And I hope you're also happy that I didn't go for the solo and try and cut you from the win. It might have been able to happen. Who knows? Yeah, I think that's all. I'm probably going to play a Colonial next game. Come and check it out. It may have already ended by the time I upload this video based on the speed that I'm editing everything else. But I think I'm going to get this up before I upload the other B2A videos. So, yeah, cheers. See you guys.